Good afternoon. Good afternoon to members of the public and members of this committee. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of Los Angeles City Council's Planning and Land Use Management Committee. Mr. Mejia, can you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Harris-Dawson.
Present.
Mr. Lee.
Present.
Ms. Yaroslavsky.
Here.
Ms. Padilla. Absent. Ms. Hutt. Absent. That's 3 members and a quorum, Mr. Chair.
All right. Before we read public comment procedures and rules into the record, I will ask the Los Angeles Department of City Planning if they have any amendments.
Thank you, Chair Harris-Dawson, Vince Bertoni, Director of Planning. And we do have several amendments, and I'd like to have planning staff to come to the table. First off, Hoggy Solomon Carey.
Hey, good afternoon. This is Nuri Cho from the Planning Department. We have technical amendments to 2 items on the agenda. The first item is item 15, Alfresco, Council File number 201074-S4. Planning staff would like to make a technical correction to amend recommendation 2 from Planning's report dated November 27th, 2023 to change the term outdoor parking area to outdoor dining area. With regard to agenda item number 22, Planning staff would like to request 4 technical amendments to the proposed Metro TCN ordinance. Firstly, amend Table 7-1 of the SUD ordinance to include sign FF3, which was inadvertently omitted during the formatting of the ordinance. Secondly, amend Sections 2, 3, and 4 of the Metro TCN Chapter 1 enabling ordinance to add a sunset provision to provide for an automatic repeal of these sections on January 22nd, 2024, when the Processes and Procedures Ordinance becomes operative. Next, amend Section 8A2I of the SUD Ordinance to allow an increase in the radius for non-freeway facing sign takedowns from 1/2 mile to 1 mile if Metro determines that the inventory of static off-site sign faces within the 1/2 mile radius is insufficient to meet the takedown requirement, or if Metro cannot secure agreements with the owners of off-site sign faces within the 1/2 mile radius. And lastly, amend Section 8A2I of the SUD ordinance to allow the takedown for non-freeway facing signs to be completed prior to the issuance of a building permit for each proposed non-freeway facing sign. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And just one more, Chair Harris-Dawson. We have Craig Weber from Community Planning.
Members, Craig Weber, City Planning staff. This is relative to item 21, the Boyle Heights Community Plan, coming up later on the agenda. As part of the community plan package, a technical memo from the Director of Planning was submitted on April 28th. There's one correction needed for that technical memo. This is with regard to the qualifying definition of a legacy small business articulated on page 40 of the document. And the correction would be to clarify that the minimum age of a legacy small business would be 20 years and not 10 years. Thank you.
Thank you. That's
That
it.
concludes.
Okay, the CLA's office, do we have any amendments?
There is a communication from CD5 for item number 22. There are technical modifications that the councilwoman has submitted. They are available for the clerk. Do you want me to read them? They're very specific.
If I will rely on your judgment about whether or not they need to be read into the record.
Okay, I will denote wherein there's strike-through language, and then I will read the new language. So for, this is item 22 again on the TCN ordinance. There's strike-through language that removes language on Section 8, subsection A1. So it strikes out subsequently a minimum of 4 static off-site signs faces shall be removed prior to the approval of a new freeway-facing sign. So that's stricken out. And then there's new language in that section that indicates, and I will read it, after the first 50 static off-site sign faces are removed, a minimum of 4 static off-site sign faces shall be removed prior to the approval of a new freeway-facing sign until the total 200 static off-site sign faces have been removed. And it goes into greater detail as relates to Metro, and it indicates that Metro shall make a determination that a 5,280-foot radius will not result in the removal of the required number of static off-site sign faces. And then it says, then the 4 removed signs shall be within the boundaries of the council district of the new freeway-facing sign. If Metro determines that the boundaries of the council district of the new freeway-facing sign will not result in the removal of the required number of static off-site sign faces, then the removed signs shall be within the boundaries of the city. And then it follows up with another technical change where it talks about the sign and the size of the static off-site signs to be removed, and it indicates that they are not to be located on Metro property and shall not be less than 200 square feet instead of 300 square feet. And those are the amendments proposed in the Councilwoman's letter.
All right. All right, so those amendments have been read into the record. Now we can go into public comment, which is the way we start every meeting of this committee. Our goal is to get to as many speakers as possible. I'm looking at the screen now. It doesn't look like we'll get to everybody, but we will try to take between 45 minutes and an hour of public comment.
Mr. Harris-Dawson?
There are more amendments.
My apologies for interrupting you, sir, but for item 15, I need to read into the record additional language for the
Okay.
Alfresco item. So the additional instruction will be requesting the city attorney to prepare and present the ordinance, and it indicates which is inclusive of the policies that are included in Exhibit A of the Planning Department report dated November the 2nd, 2023, and as modified in the recommended action, in the recommended action items 1 and 2 in the Planning Department report dated November 27, 2023, inclusive of the technical amendment and modifications to subsection 1221A 24D1I to read as follows. The outdoor dining area shall have an enclosure of no more than 75%, except that, and it follows the rest of the clause. That is the proposed modification, sir.
Thank you. Any others?
Yes, Councilmember Harris-Dawson, I would like to make a amendment to item 11, Tiffany Zaytunian, for the record, Planning Deputy for
Okay, but only
Council
if you tell us
District
who
2.
you are.
We would like to amend it to be, I therefore move, the City Council instruct Project Restore with input from the Department of City Planning's Office of Historic Resources, the Cultural Heritage Commission, and the Office of the City Administrative Officer to prepare and submit the necessary application for Los Angeles City Hall to be nominated to the National Register of Historic Places. Thank you.
Your name and position for the record, please.
Tiffany Zaytunian, Planning Deputy for CD2.
Thank you so much. All right, any others? Come on up. Mr. Gubatan, you are the next contestant.
Mr. Harris-Dawson, again, my apologies for interrupting you, sir, but I need to read into the record for item 9, there is a modification as to this general plan amendment and a zone change ordinance, and I will read it into the record. Approve the planning department technical modifications to the conditions of approval, condition number 1, to be consistent with the Bureau of Engineering's request for street dedications and improvements, and revise Exhibit A that shows that the corrected commercial floor area of 136,984 square feet, as recommended by the Planning Department in its report dated November 29th, 2023, and which has been uploaded to Council File 22-1153.
Thank you, Mr. Gubatan.
Thank you, Joe. Gubatan, Council District 14, regarding item 21. Our office worked with the Planning Department on some technical language. It's been uploaded to the file, but it's a lot. It's 12 items. I'll go ahead and read it into the record. Recommendations for Council Action 1. Request the City Attorney, in coordination with the Housing Department and Planning Department, to prepare an ordinance that would establish a local preference program for affordable housing units consistent with the Federal Fair Housing Act that gives priority for affordable housing units to households in Boyle Heights that have been or will be displaced from their homes within 12 months due to a natural disaster, have had their residence demolished, have been evicted due to the Ellis Act provisions, live or work in the city of Los Angeles, have suffered a government-ordered eviction, have been affected by the construction of the I-60 freeway, I-5 freeway, I-10 freeway, 101 freeway, or reside within households that were subject to redlining as delineated in the 1939 Homeowners Loan Corporation map. Number 2, instruct the Planning Department to present amendments to the community plan to provide greater specificity, to delineate specific parcels applicable to the respective density districts on the general plan land use designation map, and present those amendments to the City Planning Commission. 3, request the City Attorney, in consultation with the Planning Department, to prepare amendments to the Boyle Heights Community Plan Implementation Ordinance to increase the requirement that 100% affordable housing developments provide a minimum of 30% of the total units as units with 2 bedrooms or more, excluding projects for veterans, seniors, transition-age youth, and permanent supportive housing, to 60%. 4, request the City Attorney, in consultation with the Planning Department, to prepare an amendment to the zoning code to change the mandatory inclusionary housing set-aside requirements for low-income households from 22% to 50% in the river-adjacent area, utilizing LA Housing Department's Rent Schedule 6. 5, request the City Attorney, in consultation with the Planning Department and Housing Department, to prepare the necessary ordinances to establish the same codified measures in tenant protections relative to right of return, RSO unit replacement, tenant anti-harassment protection measures enacted under Council File 20-1265-S1 for application to the Boyle Heights Community Plan area. Number 6, instruct the Department of Transportation, in consultation with the Planning Department, Building and Safety, and Housing Departments, to conduct a parking study of the Boyle Heights Community Plan area that determines underparked public streets based on density, the number of housing units and bedrooms on a given block, street capacity, and other factors, including but not limited to recommendations on planning tools and modifications to the Boyle Heights Community Plan and Zoning Ordinance to provide adequate parking in underparked areas in the community plan area and new development in the river-adjacent area. 7, instruct the Economic and Workforce Development Department, in consultation with the Planning Department, to conduct a study recommending effective policies, strategies, and resources and modifications to the Community Plan and Zoning Ordinance to retain local businesses vulnerable to displacement resulting from market pressures in the Boyle Heights Community Plan area, including but not limited to regulating rent increases on commercial properties, a commercial property vacancy tax, or tax incentives to property owners to encourage business retention. Number 8, request the City Attorney, in consultation with the Planning Department, to prepare an amendment to the zoning code to create an incentive under Article 9's community facilities that allows youth, social services, educational, and similar facilities to be an eligible use to qualify for increased density or floor area in new development in the Industrial Mixed-Use 6 District. Number 9, instruct the Planning Department to prepare and present a report with recommendations on amending the community plan and zoning ordinance to incorporate crime prevention through environmental design strategies and other security operational conditions in the land development review and approval process focused on the river-adjacent area. I'm going to pause and breathe. Okay. Number 10, instruct the planning department to conduct a focused study on the interface between the river-adjacent area and the residential areas designated for low-density and medium-density residential land uses to the east, with an emphasis on promoting compatible building scale, massing, spacing, facade modulation, and community benefits, such as usable open space, and to present the amendments on the plan and zoning ordinance. Number 11, request the city attorney, in consultation with the planning department, to prepare an amendment to the zoning ordinance to amend LA Municipal Code Chapter 1A, Article 5, Section 5C46, Legacy Small Business Special Use Program, to add language relative to lease agreements establishing a limit of no more than 5% rent increase per year during the term of the lease, as identified in the letter dated December 4th, 2023, from the Los Angeles Conservancy. And finally, number 12, instruct the planning department and the economic and workforce department to prepare and present a report with recommendations on options to implement local hire for major project conditional use projects and P2 public facilities projects in the Boyle Heights community plan area. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else?
Hi. Honorable Chair and honorable members of the Plum Committee, I'm Sean Silva from CD11. I'm here to speak on item 22 really quick. So I want to state on behalf of our office that we have heard a significant degree of opposition from our constituents for all proposed digital billboard signage in our district, and it has been steady. One billboard in particular, however, FF30 in the Palms Mar Vista Del Rey Community Plan, was highlighted by most of our constituents. This proposed sign adjacent to the 90 freeway is in close proximity to the state-recognized Ballona Wetlands Ecological Reserve, an approximately 600-acre open space home to thousands of species of native flora and fauna. The Ballona Wetlands also serve as an important migratory refuge, food source, and resting place for millions of birds on the Pacific Flyway, which is a roughly 7,500-mile migratory route extending from the southern tip of South America all the way to northern Alaska. A letter was transmitted by the firm that is representing LA County Metropolitan Transportation Authority that states that they agree with removing FF30 due to its proximity to the Ballona Wetlands. We hope that you will move forward in removing this billboard today. We again stress that overwhelmingly, the district has spoken in general opposition to the TCN digital billboard signage. We thank you for all your hard work on this matter. Thank you.
Other amendments? You sure, Mr. Mejia?
No, I'm good.
Okay, all right. All right, now we can go to public comment. I'll ask that the rules and instructions be read into the record by the clerk and the city attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appellants and/or the representatives and applicants and/or the representatives will be allowed to speak for a total of 3 minutes per side unless otherwise noted by the chair. Members of the public wishing to speak on one agenda item only shall have an opportunity to speak for 1 minute. Appellants and applicants will be given an opportunity to speak when their item is called. Each appellant and applicant has a total of 3 minutes to speak. An appellant can choose to have a single representative speak on his or her behalf or divide the 3 minutes among his or her team. Anyone else, including an attorney or project manager wishing to speak on an appellant's behalf who does not do so during this 3-minute period, may offer a minute of public comment whenever the committee chairperson opens the public comment period for the meeting, which is usually at the beginning of the meeting. Therefore, we expect that appellants and applicants have the respective teams assembled and ready to present at the appropriate times today. Members of the public wishing to speak on one on more than one item shall state that and shall be allowed to speak for a total of 2 minutes. Failure to submit public comment in a timely manner before the comment period for the item ends results in forfeiture of the opportunity to participate in public comment for the item. Madam City Attorney, please provide additional guidance on public comment.
When speaking on agenda items, you must be on topic. Our goal is to get through as many speakers as we can. If you are not speaking on topic, or if we cannot tell whether you are speaking on an agenda item, you will get one brief warning. If you do not immediately get clearly on topic, you will forfeit the rest of your time, and we will move on to the next speaker. We will inform you when your time is up.
All right, so we'll begin by calling names. We'll ask you to line up on the aisle furthest to my right and your left. You can line up in any order once your name is called. Remember the instructions. We have a number of speakers on the queue. We will not get to everybody, but we will go until at least 3:15, so that's 45 minutes. So please be mindful when you're speaking. If you've made your points, you don't have to stay up there for the full minute or 2 minutes. You can allow the next person to come on up. And with that, we'll open up public comment. Thank you.
I will begin by calling a few names.
Sorry, before you call names, I'm going to move that we continue item 2 to the 16th of January, 2024. There's no objection. That'll be the order. And just for the audience, the chair will request that we take on consent items 3 through 11, so 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Also 22 through 24, 22, 23, and 24. There's going to be a recommendation to take those items on consent. But anybody here to talk on item number 2, that item is continued until January 16th of 2024. And with that, we can continue to call names.
First up, we will have Sochi Diaz, Socorro Chacon, Vilma Cooler, Kelly Lally. Please line up to your left-hand side. Manzar Faroja, Reed Hutchison. Also, please be advised, if you are an applicant or appellant, you will be speaking when the item is being spoken on. You will not be speaking now.
I stand to speak on the item 21.
Your time is beginning.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Socorro Chacon. I work for Social Matter Recovery System, and I'm also part of the Friends of Hollenbeck Park and Boyle Heights Coalition. Since 2017, we have provided feedbacks and recommendations to shape the Boyle Heights Community Plan. We are happy to see that the recommendations we made in our memorandum dated April 4 were included in the Boyle Heights Community Plan's letter of determination dated September 19, 2023. Our recommendations included enforcement on park codes by providing adequate staffing to supervise and restrict illegal activities, maintenance and improvement on existing park facilities to ensure the preservation of our parks, provision of adequate lighting and security for safe park use. We ask that your committee approve the Boyle Heights Community Plan, including these critical recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Muy buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Vilma Cuellar, residente de Boyle Heights por 32 años.
Good afternoon. My name is Bill McQuair. I'm a resident of Boyle Heights for 32 years.
Yo junto con otros miembros de la coalición Amigos de Hollenbeck Park estamos aquí presentes. Hemos abogado porque se ajunten metas y pólizas que benefician a nuestros parques y la calidad de vida en Boyle Heights.
Myself, together with the coalition of friends of Boyle Heights, are been trying to get some goals and policies to be taken
benefit.
and benefits.
Por mucho tiempo hemos solicitado la atención a nuestras preocupaciones con poco, casi nada de éxito.
For a long time, we've been asking so that you guys can take care of our worries, but there has been no answer to them.
Digo poco, en la última audiencia con el Departamento de Planeación solicitamos la inclusión de algunas sugerencias que fueron aceptadas.
I say a little. In the last Planning Commission meeting, there were some recommendations that we solicited and were included.
También quiero hacerle entrega de estas postales que nosotros los amigos del parque de Hollenbeck Park hemos colectado en la comunidad.
I also want to give you these postcards that, together with the Friends of Hollenbeck Park, have collected.
Son 280 postales que demuestran el apoyo a las recomendaciones de nuestros parques.
There's 280 postcards that show the support to the recommendations to the support of our parks.
Muchísimas gracias por su tiempo y atención y les pido que aprueben estas recomendaciones en el plan comunitario de Boyle Heights. Buenas tardes.
Thank you very much for your attention. I ask for you to take on this, approve these recommendations on the Boyle Heights Community Plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. Before the next speaker begins, I will call a few more names. Crystal Orozco, David Fige, Jacob Westerman, Glafira Lopez, Yvonne Castros, Angelina Jimenez.
As the next person is coming up, for the record, council members Hutt and Padilla have joined us for a full complement of all 5 members of the committee.
Hi, my name is Crystal Orozco. I am a resident and was born in Boyle Heights. My family was raised in Boyle Heights as well. Over 40 years of history there. I just wanted to make a stand on the quote-unquote ED1 new policy and bill. Somehow this is bypassing a lot of community impact statements that aren't even addressing the needs of the community. Right now there's about 3 projects in Boyle Heights that are not adhering to proper survey, to environmental reports of the city. I've asked an inspector that's directly connected to where the corner of my property is. There is children there, there is families there, there are schools there, and there's absolutely no environmental report being done. And this is a deep concern in our community. If there is a community plan, I highly, highly suggest everyone do surveys. Parking has been an issue, an absolute issue people are constantly fighting about. So parking needs to be in demand there and a high demand for our public and our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I have both a general comment and speaking on both 15 and 22, please. Thank you. I'm here to talk about the Alfresco ordinance and specifically, and the utter lack of enforcement mechanisms that are built in as it currently stands. The original sin here begins in the original staff report, which said on page 3 that in the context of 3,000 authorizations that have been issued since the establishment of the temporary program, there have been only 90 noise complaints over 3 years. That is manifestly and completely false. In fact, noise complaints are legion, and it was not until much, much later when the LAPD actually filed its report that you got real numbers. Those numbers are that there were up to 51,964 complaints in a single year. Now, how could you have gotten something so wrong? The answer is that they used LADBS numbers. But nobody calls LADBS late at night when there's noise. They call LAPD. Why is this a problem? Because there is no one to call, and in the current ordinance, there is still no one to call. When you're held hostage in your home at night, when noise is pumping through your living room and you cannot sleep, your choices are these. Call LAPD, stay on hold for approximately 40 minutes. If they respond, which they generally don't, and I want to tell you how clear that is, because LAPD offered the number of times they actually responded and issued citations. That number is in less than 0.3%. No meaningful enforcement. Not only that, they reiterate in their report, quote, CID does not have the operational capacity to respond to active alfresco dining complaints and therefore should not be used for complaints by the public. What about LADBS? Unfortunately, they're closed. They close, they have no answering system, they have no way to even lodge a complaint. So what you have created with this ordinance is a system that completely allows the few rogue operators to continue to do whatever they want, disturbing the neighborhood. This is not a balanced approach. I love alfresco dining. I do it all the time. I just don't want a system in which neighbors are kept up all night, and currently they are. Where I live, under the temporary authorization, every single establishment already has illegal outdoor speakers. They're banned under the temporary ordinance. They already exist. There is nothing to do about them. I am pleading with you on behalf of my neighbors and on behalf of the city to amend this ordinance to create meaningful redress that is based on complaints. Right now, you have not allocated any money, there is no dedicated enforcement team, and worse, even for a $1,000 citation, which means nothing to the owners, they have appellate things that go on and on and on, offering no meaningful redress. This is not a system that will work. I beg you, balance the interests, let everybody work, but give us some way when we have legitimate complaints to lodge them. Thank you.
And have you seen the amendment on concerning the complaint portal that's been created?
I'm so sorry, say that again?
There's an amendment creating a complaint portal
Yes,
and redress.
I'd love to talk about that. Yes.
But your time is up, but I just want to make sure you saw it.
Right,
Next.
but there's nobody to...
Thank you. Got it.
Buenos días. Necesito traductor, por favor.
Sí, señora, la escucho.
Sure, you can start. Yes. Good afternoon.
Buenos días a todos. Estoy aquí, perdón, mi nombre es Angelina Jiménez, miembro de ACE.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Angelina Jimenez, and I'm a member of ACE.
Estoy aquí para hacer un recordatorio de un escrito que tenía que firmar el abogado de la ciudad por orden del señor Macuiz.
I am here to remind you that there is a written that was supposed to be signed, and it was ordered by Councilmember Marquez.
Le doy las gracias al señor Macuiz por hacerlo y preocuparse por nosotros.
I want to say thank you to Mr. Marquez for doing it and for taking care of us.
Pero pregunto, ¿hasta cuándo tenemos que esperar? Tenía que ser el mes de agosto.
But my question is, how long are we going to have to wait for? It was supposed to be on the month of August.
Tal vez el señor Macuiz no le dijo que tenía que ser el del año 23. ¿Están esperando otro año o algún año más? No sé. A lo mejor están confundidos.
So maybe Mr. Marquez didn't say that it was on the year for the year 23. Maybe you're confused, or maybe you're waiting for one more year.
Creo que hay falta de comunicación, pero yo sí quiero saber.
It looks like it's a lack of communication, but I would like to know.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before
So
the next speaker begins.
They put something up at the beginning of the year, and we haven't gotten it done yet in the city department, so hopefully they don't have to come back and ask for it again. Yes.
Okay. Hello, my name is Glafira Lopez. I'm a community organizer with SAGE. I'm also here to talk about item number 1, the CPIO. The City Council passed the amendments a year ago, and we've been waiting a year, right, for those amendments to be proposed. I work daily with tenants that are in our SB8 projects, 981 projects, right, and we see the need for these tenant protections to be passed and to be implemented on the daily as people struggle through different displacement concerns. We need this not only to be citywide, right, but we also need the CPIO amendments, like replacing affordable units with the same size of affordability to be implemented, especially even with the Boyle Heights community plan, which I know that we're voting on today. So I urge you to implement those CPIO amendments. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. I will call a few more names. Mohammed Abdullah, Eddie Navarrete, Barba Brody, Kimberly Alvarado, Christina Reyna, Haiti Campos, and Shireen, just Shireen.
Are we given?
Hi, I'm here to speak on public general comment and also item number 15.
Please state your name.
My name is Eddie Navarrete with the Independent Hospitality Coalition, standing with the many that were not in the room when the decision was made to ruin our ordinance by requiring parking. We stand alone in our city of LA as the only major city in California that that requires parking still. In 2018, city of San Francisco got rid of parking. In 2021, both the city of Berkeley and the city of Sacramento got rid of parking. 2022, city of San Diego got rid of parking to help the small business community and also to save our planet. Are they in violation of the ADA? These are all California cities that do not require parking, and I assure you, they wouldn't do that if they were going to be in the violation of the ADA. Why are you, Marquise Harris Dawson, requiring parking for our backbones of community? This isn't doubling down on Alfresco that Mayor Bass claims she wanted. This is destroying it. This isn't supporting our small business community. All you have to do is delete this recommendation, amendment number 2. This is a failure of leadership. You should be protecting small businesses, providing equal access for all, and not only for the ones who can afford it. By requiring at least one parking stall, you now complicate the permitting process tenfold. The only reason the Alfresco program was because we cut the red tape. State bills like AB 2097 and AB 1217 extending the state authority for another 2 years, are those in violation of the state ADA? LADBS can attest parking is the most difficult of zoning items for a plan checker to have to decipher. A third of their time is spent deciphering these requirements, as we learned under Council File 200499. Providing just one parking stall has to provide stall width, backup. You can't back up onto a public street, so it takes up all of the space for a smaller lot. Landscaping, all the requirements that come into whenever you have to add one parking stall. How do you expect a small business to do this? Please, don't choose cars, choose people, choose jobs, and choose our planet. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I see you getting special privileges. Yes,
yeah,
sir.
you know, it helps sometimes when my knee is hurting. First thing I like to say is thank you, Mr. Harris Dawson, and the Plum Committee, what you've been doing with the CPIO. My name is Abdullah Muhammad. I'm a member of ACE. We are part of USC Forward. And we've been working in tandem for years to get this done. It's what's happening in our community around USC in Exposition Park area. Now, I've heard that this ordinance was passed by Plum and the council. It was given to the city attorney's office in January. And my question is, why she's been dragging her feet getting this ordinance together so we can get it passed, so we can get the work done in our community to protect our community, to protect affordable housing, get rid of demolition in our community so we can have the kind of community that we deserve. So my question again, why are you dragging your feet? And another thing, when we were interviewing candidates for this office, we interviewed you. We did. And we spoke highly of you. And here you are dragging your feet on an item that's so damn important for our community. So we want to know why.
That's your time.
Why?
Thank you. Before the next speaker approaches, I will call a few more names. Christopher Cruz, Erica Jimenez, Maria Briones, Stefano Medina, Albert Kim. You may state your name and the items you're speaking on.
Hello, my name is Barbara Brady. I'm here representing the West Side Neighborhood Council, and I'm speaking on general comment, and then for our Neighborhood Council on item number 22.
You may begin.
Thank you. Council members, thank you for your attention on item number 22, the Metropolitan Transportation Communication Network. I call your attention to the fact, before I start speaking to our Neighborhood Council's opposition, that the current ordinance before you does not agree with itself. There are inconsistencies. It was difficult to hear if some of the modifications proposed address all of them, but the numbers don't add up. The charts don't agree with one another. This is not ready for approval today. There are issues related to lead agency status. This program gives your authority to Metro. You were not a participant actively in the EIR process, in which there were many issues and problems. And in the future, this council will have no control over a program that will steal revenues from your beloved sidewalk amenities program, the bus shelter program, that relies on advertising dollars in order to provide transit shelters for our transit riders. If you were an out-of-home or advertiser, where would you put your billboard? On the 405 at the 10 intersection, or on a transit shelter? Think about it. Planning and land use issues. We have a priority in LA for housing. No one has reviewed these properties for their potential to provide housing, and in fact, some of them are on Metro's joint property development list. Others comply with ED1, according to our own Zymus program. This is an issue. This is a problem. What's more important, billboards or housing? Parks. We're a park-poor city. We're supposed to be protecting our parks. Zymus identifies a number of properties within close proximity to our open space, our LA River, and yet you're about to approve louvers and digital signs overhanging these parks, which we need and value. Talk about impacts on resources. Union Station, I have postcards going back to the 1930s showing Union Station. Are we going to have postcards 30 years from now that show Union Station dwarfed by a 1,200 plus square foot digital billboard? Really? Angel's Flight, a historic monument in our city, digital billboard in the photograph? There is something wrong with this program that none of you has looked at, to say nothing of the transportation impacts. This program is a transportation communications network program that never saw the light of day in the Transportation Committee. Why? Probably because no one wanted to raise the issues of driver distraction. Driver distraction is a proven cause of accidents. We had emergency room physicians testifying at planning department hearings, but the planning department told us they had to hurry this along. Council president wanted it approved before the end of the year. This is the Plum Committee. You have a duty to look at this in detail and to claim back your authority and have an impact on what happens in this city for the next 20 to 30 years. Hours of operation weren't addressed. Katie Yaroslavsky raised those last meeting of this committee. These changes haven't gone to the neighborhood councils. They likely should go back to CPC to comply with LA Municipal Code. That hasn't happened. Louvers. Louvers are on some park signs, not on others. Protection of people who live near the signs. There's no way to deal with that after the case. And by the way, LAX has a whole handful of signs in the proximity of the airport. I personally negotiated with the lobbyists for LAX when they established the LAX sign district. They promised to remove signs in the proximity of the airport that were outside of the grounds of the airport in exchange of getting generous rights for on-campus signage. They got those rights, we got signs removed, and now you're gonna put them back. That doesn't seem right. The city can do better and should do better. You want signs and revenue? Then make a plan under the city's control.
That's your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker.
Good afternoon. My name is Maria Briones, and I'm a member of ACE. I want to thank you, first of all, to Mr. McQueen for being a champion on the council, on the passing of the amendments for CPIO. I'm talking on behalf of all my neighbors that many of them had been displaced by the USC, and we need to stop that. We need to build, yes, I understand, more buildings and more homes, but it's not been addressed for the ones who really needed it the most. And some of our houses had been destroyed, who had been in the history making of LA. We need to protect those buildings. We need to protect our communities. We need to protect our families, and we need to protect everyone around. We have dreams in this city. We love our city. We love LA, and we want to remain here. We don't want to be displaced like everybody else has been displaced. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Speaker.
Hello. And I'm speaking on item 1 regarding the South LA CPIO.
Can you tell us your name?
Oh, Kimberly Alvarado. And I'm regarding the CPIO, as the city considers codifying the Affordable Housing Streamlining Ordinance, which includes fast-tracking developments, including where current existing rent-controlled housing and tenants live. Passing policies that enforces the right to return and not just the right to apply is a priority. We want better neighborhoods with the same neighbors. Also, I'm hoping that the City Planning Commission denies the conditional use permit for the USC Discovery and Translational Hub, and that it doesn't reach you, the Plum Committee. If these permits are granted, it will negatively impact residents on the east side with gentrification and displacement. If it reaches you, please vote no and prioritize community needs instead.
Thank you, Speaker.
Good afternoon. My name is Cristina Reyna, and I am a representative at the Pico Gardens Resident Advisory Council. I am here in support of the changes at the Boyle Heights Community Plan update, and the reason why is that the local preference requirement for new advisory housing, mandatory inclusionary housing requirement, and lastly, a small business assistant commercial vacancies. Thank you.
Thank you. Before the next speaker begins, I will call a few more names. Vera Campbell, Roxana Brusso, Robert O, Jason Berkowitz, Pamela Augustin.
Good afternoon. My name is Stefano Medina. I'm here to speak on item 1 and 21. I'm a staff attorney with Public Counsel working with the Eastside Leads Coalition. And we've been hearing a lot about how the community has been waiting for a year for the city attorney to respond to this body's request to consider the amendments in the South LA CPIO. But we haven't just been waiting for a year. The community, the coalition USC Forward, and my clients, and the council member, Marquise Harris Dawson's office, we have been meeting, we have been working, we have been developing ideas, and it's been beautiful to see. It's been beautiful to see the community stand up for itself, because even if USC is often the target, they're not the only people demolishing homes and building dorms. That's what's happening in the community. We are replacing homes with dorms. And our proposals are going to make sure that local residents still have a future in that community. In my role as an attorney for Eastside Leads, I've also been, we submitted a public comment letter for the Boyle Heights Community Plan update. Probably the most important thing that we flag is a disturbing loophole that would undermine the planning department's carefully designed community benefits program by incentivizing developers to instead use the state density bonus law. We've conferred with the planning department about the need to make this fix, so we know that the solution is on the table, and we hope that this body directs the planning department to make that change. The second thing I want to emphasize is the danger of development along the river to Boyle Heights. The Arts District is right across the river, and it's a loaded gun pointed at this low-income community of color. So we need to be very careful what we allow to be developed around the river. The Downtown LA Community Plan created a model around the Skid Row zoning ordinance, and we believe the same IX1 ordinance should be instituted along the river.
Speaker.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Erica Jimenez, and I'm speaking on item number 21. So I live and work in Boyle Heights as a resident and organizer in Boyle Heights. I strongly urge you to listen to our recommendations today to ensure that the Boyle Heights Community Plan truly serves existing residents, preventing displacement and securing strong policies that build and preserve affordable housing. I work with young adults who live in the community and are currently attending college. One of the biggest concerns I hear from my members that I work with is how the prices and rent are increasing to make it harder on them and their families. In the Boyle Heights Community Land Trust, there is a recommendation to encourage developers to build affordable housing that has 2-bedroom apartments and not just 1 bedroom. A lot of our community in Boyle Heights is multi-generational and have been living here for a while. We should be allowed to continue to live in our community, and we should be able to apply and qualify for affordable housing without restrictions. We should be able to have units that are affordable to fit the needs of the community. The average household size is 4, and in Boyle Heights, it's already facing an overcrowdingness, so we should be able to have access to more 2-bedroom units. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Christopher Cruz, and I'm here to speak on item 20 and 21 and give general public comment. I live in Council District 14, and I'm here to say that I strongly support the interim control ordinance. We cannot afford to lose our RSO-controlled units, especially in circumstances where the demolition of RSO rent-controlled units or rent-controlled buildings is done to construct market-rate units. This is the case in Boyle Heights, where there's a project located in our historic Brooklyn Avenue corridor that threatens to demolish a building with RSO units. The developer for this project, TL Properties, intends to construct 45 market-rate units at the loss of the current RSO units, an alteration of the historic corridor. I ask this committee to stand with the working-class people of Boyle Heights and support the interim control ordinance and support the community plan update. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker.
Good afternoon. My name is Shireen Amani. I'm a small local restaurant owner in Venice, California. I wanted to speak regarding agenda item 15 in opposition to recommendation number 2 regarding the parking. When I had opened my restaurant, we had 6 parking spaces in tandem. Due to the way that the parking spaces were set up to the back of the restaurant, we were dealing a lot with homeless issues where people were defecating back there, and we were able to legally create a fence around the parking with doors that opened up for people that wanted to use our parking spaces. In the year and a half that we were open before the pandemic, no one used the spots. We had even written it on the menu that if you wanted to use our parking space, we would offer free parking. It wasn't really a necessity for our business. People rode their bikes, they walked from the neighborhood, and there's plenty of street parking available. So during the pandemic, when I was able to get the approval for outdoor dining, we had taken the back area and closed off the doors and created our space. And so if this goes through, this will make it so that we're not going to be able to keep our outdoor dining.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Roxana Brusso, and I'm representing Mid-City Heights Neighborhood Group. We are on item 4 today on the agenda. This is regarding the existence of the oversaturation in illegal hostels. We have been asking for help for a year now and want to thank our local city council, CD10, for finally creating this motion on our behalf. I have lived in Mid-City Heights since 2008 and have never felt so unsafe in my community since these illegal operations have started functioning. We now have neighbors who will not walk down certain streets with their children, strollers, dogs, because they are afraid where they weren't before. Our own senior lead officer said that in 1 week alone, they had over 50 calls into the precinct, including arrests, all related to the hostels. He said in his entire time of covering the area, he had never experienced that many complaints. I alone was walking my dog, and there was a stabbing that took place in front of the hostels. There also has been an abundance of trash on the streets now, liquor bottles scattered, people from the hostels walking around high on different types of drugs. Our neighbors have had numerous encounters with them, from harassment to being followed.
Thank you, Speaker. Before the next speaker begins, I will call a few more names. Emmanuel Matamoros, Bill Delvac, Sadie Kay, Jordan Shefhitelli, Please state your name and the items you're speaking on.
Pamela Agustin, and I'm speaking on item 1 and 21. Do I get 2 minutes? Yay. Well, hello, council members. My name is Pamela. I'm the director of the Eastside Leads Coalition, which brings together 8 diverse partners in the Boyle Heights area, which also includes parents and youth. Today, you have already heard from a few of our members, like Public Counsel and Intercity Struggle. I speak first regarding the South LA CPIO. We urge you to adopt these amendments that were passed by the LA City Council, you and your colleagues, earlier this year. We need these stronger tenant protections, which include stronger relocation procedures, replacement of demolished, naturally affordable units, and anti-tenant harassment protections adopted for South LA residents and my fellow Boyle Heights community. We need these applied to Boyle Heights as well, now on item 21. As Stefano Medina mentioned earlier, our letter outlines a total of 8 proposals that we need your support to recommend to the full City Council for the Boyle Heights Community Plan. I stress that you follow the recommendation of the LA City Planning Commission and not approve the community plan with alternative 3. In the last 6 years, Eastside Leads and our partners have held ongoing community meetings, even during the pandemic, and engaged every step of the community plan process. We heard consistently concerns from residents that they fear the LA River area of Boyle Heights becoming another arts district. This is a historic industrial area. It must serve affordable housing and only acutely affordable housing if it is to allow residential. Please adopt the community plan with our recommendations outlined in our letter, with the recommendations of the City Planning Commission earlier this year, and please, by doing so, you will center keeping existing residents in Boyle Heights in their community. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker.
Hello? Tell me when you're ready. Good.
Please state your name and the item you're speaking on.
Jason Berkowitz, speaking in support of item 15. Hello? My name is Jason Berkowitz. I'm a longtime restaurant operator and citizen in Los Angeles. I've helped open up and oversee over 100 independent restaurants here, and it's an incredible community that we've built and that continues. And you know, for myself, why do I love working in and helping small businesses and restaurants? Because that's where I learned everything as far as taking care of each other and really being there for each other and how important it is for a community. And I'm here with a bunch of family-owned restaurants where we really learn with and from each other. And look, as everything's changing and shifting out of the pandemic, it is such a balancing act to understand how to make enough money to stay open. And we understand with rising inflation and wages, we're all about this. Pay a living wage, pay inflation, take care of each other. But just understand how delicate it is, and we need to make sure that the revenue continues. We have done an incredible job with item 15 and with Alfresco dining. Every seat matters, and removing the red tape matters, so thank you. Please keep that going. Just remove item 2 from it. We do not need the extra stall.
Thank you, Speaker. Chloe Dunn, Rosalind Segarra, Victor Reyes, Richard Burns, Nam Kim. This will likely be our last few speakers.
Good afternoon, honorable council members. Bill Dalvac on behalf of AEG on the Convention Center project. This project has been in the works for a number of years. It's time to get this moving. There are 2 items before you today. The sign district ordinance, which the city attorney worked very hard to resolve all the issues, and a specific plan amendment to allow the construction of the new Convention Center hall. I have a very simple but critically important administrative matter. Through clerical error, the specific plan that was in the council file from the city attorney omitted 2 key attachments. Attachment A, which are the project plans, and attachment C, the mitigation measures. On November 29th, the planning department submitted to the Plum Committee, and it is in the council file, a request to add these 2 exhibits as they had been passed by the CPC, and they've submitted those as attachments. We urge your support, but we ask you to amend the specific plan ordinance to include those exhibits. Happy holidays and have a good winter recess. Thank you.
Hello, hello. My name is Emmanuel. I'll be speaking on item 21. So, like I mentioned, my name is Emmanuel. I've been living in Boyle Heights for about 18 years, but I also work in Boyle Heights for the most part since I talk with tenants, being a tenant consultant for Stay House Delay, more or less informing them about their rights and then also continue to lead them through more or less the system in general. A lot of our community does not know majority of the things that all of us here know. So it's important for us to guide them through it as well, to ensure that they are able to remain in their homes. One of the things that we've also been seeing a lot has been, the right of return, which is something that doesn't necessarily always happen to tenants, for losing or being displaced their home for any other measures really, such as like a fire. So that is something that we can change together, making it stronger for people to be able to have that right of return a reality.
Thank you, Speaker.
Yeah, thank you.
My name is Chloe Dunn, and I'll be speaking on item 7. By designating the Coronet Building as a historic cultural monument, we ensure that future generations can connect with Los Angeles' performing arts and art cinema history, to learn from it and to find inspiration for the future. It is a commitment to ensuring that an aspect of this city's vibrant history is valued and remains accessible to future generations. It's a reminder that our cultural heritage isn't just something to read about, it's something we can touch, feel, and experience firsthand. The Coronet Theater is an active part of our city's identity and a significant landmark of creative cultural contribution. It's a remarkable architectural time capsule that connects the past, present, and future. Our city is very lucky to have it still standing fairly unchanged after all these years. It serves as a bridge between our modern lives and the experiences of those who came before us. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rosalind Slagaro with the Los Angeles Conservancy, speaking on items 21 and 22. Good afternoon, members of Plum. Thank you to the Department of City Planning and City Planning Commission for many years of engagement and thoughtful consideration on the Boyle Heights Community Plan. We support many of the plan's historic preservation planning policies, especially the new zoning and other strategies. But today we ask you to enhance these efforts. 1, expand CPIO Historic Preservation Subarea B to include all local, state, and National Register eligible and identified historic districts, including Wyronwood Garden Apartments and Stone Street Residential Historic District. It's important that the plan be consistent in its identification and approach to safeguarding historic districts from demolition and degradation. 2, should the proposed industrial mixed-use district, IX6, be adopted, we will encourage adaptive reuse, compatible infill, and community benefits that include rehoming legacy small businesses within the proposed district. We respectfully request amendments to the director's technical memo to Plum to provide greater compatibility with the city's adopted legacy business program. We have identified our recommendations in greater detail, submitted in advance of this meeting in writing, and we hope you will consider them prior to the adoption of the community plan update. I also wanted to speak on item 22 to express our opposition to the Metro's TCN digital billboard program. We request that the following historic places and sites be officially removed from the list of intended installations of new digital billboards. The places associated with FF1, FF11, and FF6, all of which are in Council District 14, and FF6 in Council District 1. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker.
Good evening. I will be speaking on Agenda 18 and 19. My name is Richard Burns. I'm a member of the Western States Regional Council of Carpenters. I live and recreate in the vicinity of the project. the Western State Regional Council of Carpenters support this project. The development has committed to work with contractors that will hire locally and utilize apprentices from state certified apprenticeship programs. I would like to express my support for the project as I believe that it will benefit the environment and the local economy by practicing protocols that will protect workers' health and safety and incorporate adequate environmental migration. Also, would like to oppose 16 and 17. Thank you very much for your valuable time. Enjoy your day.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Victor Reyes, and I'm here on behalf of the Valley Industry and Commerce Association, here to speak on items number 3, 15, and 22. Regarding item 3, VICA supports the restaurant beverage program and the streamlining process in Council District 6 as it ensures compliance for established restaurants, benefiting the district through eliminating financial barriers for sit-down restaurants and boosting economic development. With nearly 400,000 industry employees and over $200 million in tax revenues, the RBP is essential. On item number 15, VICA supports a permanent Alfresco program. However, we have certain concerns regarding the alternative ordinance language requiring parking spaces, especially for smaller businesses that may be more restrictive on their patio spacing. So we just want to go ahead and address that. We are in full support of Alfresco, but we hope those concerns are taken into consideration. For item number 22, we back LA Metro's Transportation Communication Network and urge Plan Committee's approval. TCN promises to enhance road efficiency, increase public transit ridership, improve public safety, and generate revenue for transportation initiatives. It will enhance the bus rider experience by offering transit signal priority, bus Wi-Fi, and bus timing information, while also being able to evaluate congestion data for various hotspots, including LAX, Dodger Stadium, and the Hollywood Bowl. On that, we thank you for your time and hope you consider many of these items. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker.
Good afternoon. My name is Robert O. I'm a resident in Koreatown for many, many years. And I would like to address item number 8 through 10. And I try to do very quick, brief, nice job. First of all, there's a lot of buildings, apartment complexes being built in K-Town. And the developers trying to build as many buildings as possible, but it's been creating a lot of problem for the residents, for the inconvenience and traffic problem. As it is, traffic is horrible in Midwestern Koreatown, and originally I think the code basically shows they have to limit the size of building height to 75 feet, but I think they're trying to change that to 85 feet. So I'm really opposing that. And also, a lot of project applicants plans to build an 8-story mixed-use buildings, 292,000 plus square footage, and they wanna. There's 251 units in each apartment, and that's about 40,500 square feet. But they like to limit the parking space to 332, and they want to put about 200 for bicycle parking. So that, to me, is a very, I can't understand how that works. So it is pretty crazy in K-Town, Midwestern. It's creating a lot of people, noise, traffic jam, crimes, and there's a lot of problem with the police department. We call this, they are very understaffed.
Thank you so much. That's your time.
council members. My name is Janae. I'm translating President Nam Kim. Thank you so much being here, hearing us. He's pulling up his thing. Just a second, sorry.
저는 남킴이라고 하며
My name is Nam Kim.
과도한 개발로 인하여
Because of overdeveloping in Koreatown,
수많은 피해를
there's a
당하는
lot of people get suffering.
주민들을 위해서
The Korean people.
보이스
He's
of
he's a president of Voice of Korean
윌셔
Wilshire
코리아타운
Koreatown
커뮤니티라는
community.
비영리 단체를 만들었습니다.
So he made it, that institute.
저는 이 시간에 시의원
This
여러분들에게
time, to the council member,
간절하게
please
부탁드립니다.
wanted to beg you,
우리 커뮤니티를
our community,
사람이 살 수 있는
has to-
사람답게 살 수 있는
people has to
커뮤니티로
live
만들기
like
원합니다.
a human being.
개발이
All the development of
사람을
city
위한
planning
개발이 되어야지
should be for the people, not for the building.
아파트나 개발을
All the
위한 사람이 되어서는 안
apartment
됩니다.
is development is all for the building developing itself, not for the people.
사람이 먼저입니다.
People are first.
우리가 길을 갈 때, 건널 때
When you go to the cross the street,
모든 차량이
everybody,
스탑합니다.
every traffic stops.
왜냐면요,
It's because of
사람이 그만큼
the
중요하기
people
때문입니다.
are very important. People are first.
모든 시의원들께서 모든 프로젝트
All
어떤 것을
city-
할 때
City councilman, please, when they have a development
시민들이 살
project,
수 있는 조건으로 만들어주기
please
바랍니다.
make them to have a condition for the people.
우리 코리안턴 주에는
It's a Korean
공원도
neighborhood.
없습니다. 공원도 없습니다.
There's no park.
폐쇄를
네.
개나 고양이가 놀 수 있는 장소가 없습니다.
There is no park for dogs or pets.
어린이 놀이터가
There's
없습니다.
no park for the
Thank you,
children.
thank you. That concludes
문화
your public
공간이
comment.
없습니다.
Thank you. We have one more speaker who was called, and after this speaker, this will conclude public comment.
My name is Janae Wall. I'm a vice president of the Voice of Wilshire Korean community. I have, because of the city planning of District 10 area, particularly in Koreatown, is policy that ignores a lot of problems such as traffic and security and racial conflicts and the reflux of multi-racial people. It's such a lack of policemen or fire department crews or safety personnel. And it's going to occur more problems in next 20 years. Last year, there was 33 constructions or 5,354 units development, but they don't consider any of the parking or any other, such as like insufficient educational facilities. We don't have schools enough or space for leisures or parking. So we need to issue that. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Xochitl Diaz. I am a resident of the 10th District, Koreatown area for over 15 years. And I'm speaking in opposition of item 18 and 19. I am here to urge you to stop the multiple construction in our community as it affects the safety of our neighborhood. It is hard to walk through sidewalks. It is hard to be the community that we used to be. We have no real recreation areas where I can take my children to. Our schools are built up where our students are forced to walk multiple floors up and down. Instead of constructions, we should have space and area for our education and our children. I am forced to look for outside of our communities for recreational areas and clean parks, safe parks, for us to be able to just live And I urge you to not let this construction continue, as we need to live in our community. I shouldn't have to drive everywhere else. Parking takes about 45 minutes in order to find a safe spot, and as it is, I have to walk several blocks back to my home, and I have to wake up super early to move my car. It is very difficult when you are increasing these constructions where all these people come to live in little space to actually be a community and be a safe neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. All right, that concludes our public comment. I'm going to call on Councilmember McCosker at this time.
Thank you very much, members. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you on item number 6, which I realize is on your consent calendar, and I will be brief given the size of your agenda. This is 832 Dominguez is in the community of Wilmington. Wilmington, like some other areas of our city, has been greatly impacted by the industrial uses around it. This one is a set of industrial uses that come from the port. Dominguez is a residential street that also has industrial uses on it. And for this reason, it's an example of one of the reasons why last time I was here, I asked you to move forward with the ICO, which you did, and I'm grateful for that. That interim control ordinance was meant to prevent this type of industrial use in close proximity to residential use in the future. Unfortunately, the permit in question was issued shortly before the implementation, before the adoption of the original ICO. And I will say, going back to 2016, there was the adoption of something called the Cleanup Greenup Ordinance in the city of Los Angeles that was designed to do something similar, to make sure that we had additional checks on uses that were incompatible with residential uses in proximity of residential uses. This property is one such case, in my view. In my view, there was not a reason for this permit to be issued. Without having reviewed the Cleanup Greenup Ordinance and either had a sign-off or imposition of conditions or some other reason why it might be exempt from the Cleanup Greenup. And so I am asking for a report to come back from Building and Safety. And my intention, to be very, very clear, my intention is to find out how this happened, and I will be seeking a revocation of the permit because I believe the permit was issued in error. Now, I don't want to get ahead of myself. It's very important that we just get the report back, and I would urge your aye vote, and I thank you very much for your attention to our community of Wilmington.
Thank you so much, Mr. McCosker. All right, I believe we've got, before we continue forward, we've got a couple more technical amendments. Council Member Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item number, this is regarding the TCN on item number 2. Just a technical correction to exempt street furniture from the distancing requirements.
All right, and Council Member Hutt.
Amendment, the clerk has an amendment on 22.
Mr. Mejia, you have one on 22 from Council District 10.
Amending
Yes, I have
motion.
that language. I will read it into the record. From Ms. Hutt, the motion being to amend the Metro TCN draft ordinance to remove NFF 12, a sign in CD 10 at the Expo Crenshaw Metro site in the West Adams, Baldwin Hills, Lamar Park Community Plan area.
All right. You good, Councilmember Hutt?
Yes, thank you.
All right, so that takes us to our consent calendars, items 3 through 11 and 22 through 24. If there's no objection, I'll ask that we call the roll on those items.
Yes. Okay, I will, so for item 2, sir, this item is being continued to January 16, 2023. Item 3 It's on consent, which is to adopt a resolution inclusive of the map and findings recommended by the Planning Department in its report dated November 29th, 2023, for the general version of the restaurant beverage program. Item 4 is a motion by Ms. Hutt instructing city planning and building and safety, the housing department, and the city attorney to report back on recommendations to regulate the proliferation of illegal hostels. Recommendation therein is to adopt a motion. Item 5, motion Yaroslavsky Park, instructing city planning to prepare a historic cultural monument application for the property at 10430 West Bellagio Road. Recommendations to adopt that motion. Item 6, Mr. McCosker's motion, McCosker Park, which we have just heard, instructing city planning and building and safety to prepare a report with recommendations relative to the permitting issue and compliance with the ICO and KUGU in CD 15 at the property located at 832 Dominguez Avenue. Recommendation is to adopt that motion. Item 7, it's a report from the Cultural Heritage Commission to include the Coronet Theater Building as a historic cultural monument. Recommendation is to adopt that recommendation. Item 8, this one is a proposed ordinance for the redevelopment plan procedures and reinstatement ordinance. The request is to request the city attorney to prepare and present the ordinance, and for the record, city planning has asked that I read the statement. I will begin. The proposed ordinance is an administrative correction to reinstate and make technical modifications to section 11.5.14 in chapter 1 of the municipal code, which was inadvertently removed by a previously adopted ordinance and does not propose any policy changes. It is the council's intent to avoid any lapse in the city's ability to utilize its redevelopment plan procedures, and is taking the following actions to ensure that those procedures continue to apply. Item 9, this is a vesting zone and height district change for the construction of a 9-story 150,458 square foot building. The recommendation is to approve the resolution for a general plan amendment and the vesting zone change and height district change ordinance as recommended by the Planning Commission in its report dated September the 5th, 2023. In addition, we need to approve the Planning Department technical modifications to T Condition 1 so that that condition of approval is consistent with the Bureau of Engineering's request for street dedication and improvements, and revise Exhibit A that shows the corrected commercial floor area of 136,984 square feet as recommended by the Planning Department in its report dated 11/29/23, and which has been uploaded to Council File 23-1153. Item 10, this is a city attorney prepare ordinance and resolution to provide notice to the Coastal Commission of the council's adoption of the ordinance, an amendment to the municipal code to incorporate the California Coastal Commission's amendments to the city's coastal development permit processes. The recommendation is to approve the city attorney prepare ordinance, the resolution to provide notice to the coastal commissions. Item 11, this was slightly amended at the beginning of the meeting. It's a motion Krikorian, Harris Dawson, Hernandez Padilla, instructing city planning to provide input also from Project Restore, the Cultural Heritage Commission, and the CAO to prepare an application to nominate LA City Hall to the National Register of Historic Places. CD2 slightly amended this recommendation to instruct the Project Restore to be the lead, and city planning to provide input along with the Office of Historic Cultural Resources. Item 22, this is a city attorney these are 3 city attorney prepared ordinances rather, relative to the establishment of a contiguous and non-contiguous supplemental use district, the transportation communication network. The recommendation therein is to approve the 3 city attorney prepared ordinances. The findings attached to the city attorney report dated December the 1st, 2023. In addition, there were technical amendments that were made at the table at the beginning of the hearing, which need to be adopted as well. And I've read into the record the amendments by CD 10 as to the removal of a sign, and also CD 11 has requested to remove a sign denoted as sign FF 30. So the recommendation is to adopt those technical amendments and the changes requested by CD 11 and CD 10 today's meeting. Item number, I think we're still on consent here. Item 23, sir. This is a report from the city attorney and a draft ordinance, which includes an urgency clause to amend the municipal code to extend the existing deadlines to complete the pre-application review processes for certain commercial cannabis applicants. The recommendation therein is to approve the city attorney prepared ordinance dated December the 1st, 2023. And the final item on consent is item 24, which is inclusive of the environmental clearance, an addendum to a previously certified EIR, and a report from city attorney and 2 draft ordinances. Ordinance number 1 amends the Convention and Event Center sign district and renames it the Convention Center and Arena sign district. Ordinance number 2 amends the Convention and Event Center specific plan, and it renames it the Convention Center and Arena specific plan, and it's inclusive of corrected specific plan appendices that were submitted by city planning. So the recommendation therein is to approve the 2 city attorney prepared ordinances inclusive of the corrected specific plan appendices that have already been uploaded to the file. That concludes all the consent items, Mr. Chair and committee members.
All right, could you call the roll?
Oh, sorry, for number 22, I'd been reminded that I needed to include Mr. Lee's amendment to remove the street furniture from the distance requirements. And so the clerk should note that for, and I already read Mr. Park, Ms. Park and Ms. Hutt's amendments as well. So those should be reflected in the committee report for item 22.
All right.
And mine?
And the ones you read earlier from CD5 as well?
Yes, I did read those.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So now it goes to the regular agenda, sir.
All right, can you call the roll, though?
Yes, let me call the roll. On all those items, Mr. Harris Dawson.
Yes.
Mr. Lee.
Aye.
Ms. Yaroslavsky.
Yes.
Ms. Padilla.
Yes.
Ms. Hutt.
Yes.
That's 5 members and unanimous, sir.
All right. Next, we'll go to item number 20.
Number 20, sir. Yes, item number 20. This is a planning department report and recommendations and findings as to a proposed interim control ordinance to prohibit the issuance of demolition and other permits in the Boyle Heights community plan area.
Good afternoon, committee members, Craig Weber, City Planning staff. This item pertains to the adoption of an interim control ordinance that would apply across the community of Boyle Heights and be focused specifically on preventing the demolition of rent-stabilized and covenanted affordable housing units within the community plan area. This is, was initiated by a request coming from Council District 14 and approved by the council within the last couple of months. The actions before the committee are fairly specific today. A draft interim control ordinance and accompanying report have been prepared and uploaded to the council file. Under the state's Housing Crisis Act, an interim control ordinance must be approved by the California State Department of Housing and Community Development. So the actions that the committee can take today are to consider the draft ICO and to instruct planning staff to refer the draft ICO to California State HCD, at which point we can then return with a draft ordinance respective of any amendments that have been requested by HCD, so that that ICO can then pursue through an adoption process and become effective at a later date.
Thank you very much. And I see that we have Councilmember De Leon. For item 20? This is item 20, Councilmember. This is item 20. I apologize. I was told you wanted to speak on 20 and 21. No? Okay. Okay. All right. Can you read the recommendations into the record, please?
Yes, sir. So for item 20, I will read them, which is expands on what Mr. Weber already stated. Approve the Planning Department recommendation in its report dated November 28, 2023, and the attached findings, Exhibit 1, as follows. Instruct City Planning to refer the interim control ordinance to the California Department of Housing and Community Development for that agency's mandatory review, and to include in the ICO any changes required by the California Department of Housing and Community Development. 2, instruct City Planning to prepare a report that outlines any recommended changes by the California Department of Housing and Community Development. And 3, request City Attorney to prepare and present the interim control ordinance with an urgency clause, including any changes required by the California Department of Housing and Community Development. I will call the roll. Mr. Harris-Dawson has stepped out, absent. Mr. Lee?
Aye.
Ms. Yaroslavsky? Absent. Ms. Padilla? Aye. And Ms. Hutt?
Aye.
That's 3 members, and that passes.
All right. Let's move on to item number 21.
Yes, sir. Item 21, it's inclusive of a draft environmental impact report, a planning commission report relative to a proposed general plan amendment to the Boyle Heights community plan and proposed ordinances.
All right, Mr. Weber, you're up again. Read us your report.
Hello again, committee members. I'd like to introduce Ulises Gonzalez, Senior City Planner with the Department of City Planning, who will provide an approximately 10-minute presentation on the Boyle Heights Community Plan.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Ulises Gonzalez, Senior City Planner, and I am pleased here today to present the Boyle Heights Community Plan update. Next slide. The Boyle Heights Community Plan update has been a multi-year process, a culmination of years of input from individual stakeholders, as well as numerous dedicated stakeholder organizations. The larger themes addressed in this plan are strategies to safeguard existing households, while also producing opportunities for new mixed income and affordable housing, strategies to bolster and preserve the unique cultural identity of Boyle Heights, and strategies to address long-standing environmental justice issues. In addition to highlighting these key strategies, we want to reserve some time to highlight many of the requests for further amendments that are proposed for the plan that are here today for your consideration. Next slide. The amount of content before the committee today is immense. As a reminder, there are 3 main components of the community plan update. 1, the policy document or plan text contains goals, policies, and programs to help guide future land use development. The second piece is the general plan land use map, which generally says what type of uses can be built where and at what scale and intensity. And the third piece is the zoning. And here I want to highlight that Boyle Heights is the second community plan in the city that will use the new zoning code. This means that we have been able to develop numerous customized zoning tools to address the land use issues that are unique to Boyle Heights. Also complementing the new zoning is the Community Plan Implementation Overlay, or the CPIO. Next slide. One of the fundamental goals of any community plan is to address the future growth in terms of housing and employment. The plan accommodates SCAT's projected growth of focusing growth near transit stations and corridors as a strategy to discourage the displacement of existing residents and communities. The growth strategy will help the city address the climate change goals and also increase access to housing, jobs, and essential services. The plan accommodates over 29,000 new residential residents, 11,000 housing units, and over 13,000 jobs. While the plan accommodates growth for future housing and employment, there is a lot of depth of how the plan does address this. As shown on the map on the left, future housing growth is primarily envisioned in transit-served areas along corridors such as First Street, Whittier, Soto, and around Metro E-Line stations. On the other hand, as shown at the map at the center, while the lower scale residential neighborhoods will continue to allow for future housing opportunities, great care has been taken in these neighborhoods to provide greater security for those existing households and to limit the effects of potential displacement. Lastly, when we talk about employment growth, this will be accomplished within Boyle Heights' existing industrial districts, as shown on the map to the right. Here, the plan aims to allow for the continued job growth while also addressing the effects that some industrial land uses may have on the surrounding community. Next slide. Under the updated community plan, the majority of new housing produced will include affordable housing units. This is being achieved through the plan's base and bonus system, which will replace today's TLC guidelines. By replacing today's TLC guidelines, we're able to increase the amount of affordable housing that projects are required to provide, as well as adding a new acutely low-income category to provide housing for households making 0 to 15% of the area median income. Under this system, we're able to offer more contextualized incentives, for example, offering greater FAR near the first and Sota train station, and also offering moderated building heights along the historic Cesar H. Chavez Avenue. We are also able to better meet the housing needs of Boyle Heights families by requiring that 30% of the dwelling units in an affordable or mixed income project be 2 bedrooms or greater. Consistent with the recently adopted community plan for downtown, projects under this system will provide affordable units for a term of 99 years. The Boyle Heights community plan has a 2-pronged approach to address concerns we have heard over the years related to housing issues. The first is to safeguard the existing housing within the lower density residential neighborhoods, which you can see in the yellow map to the left. To address this, the proposed zoning reduces the FAR to better align with the existing conditions we see on the ground today. To complement this approach, the plan allows for more housing and more incentives for affordable housing projects along major corridors and in the blocks closest to the E-line. Here, the base FAR are set to 1.5, consistent with today's zoning, and a bonus FAR are set to 2.5, 3, or 4. Those are the areas on the map shown to the right. Next slide. Given the prevailing concerns over displacement within the Boyle Heights lower scale residential neighborhoods, we have taken a careful look at how zoning can better protect existing households. Here, existing households are generally built out with 1 or 2 stories, duplexes, and smaller apartment buildings as shown to the figure to the left. Under today's zoning, a 3-to-1 FAR promotes redevelopment of a site yielding larger, more expansive dwelling units, but not necessarily an increase in the number of units. Under the plan, zoning is moderated down to 0.6 and 1 FAR, still allowing for an increase in residential units, but at a scale that's more appropriate. Bulk plane requirements are also added to ensure that new buildings do not loom over neighboring properties. To complement this change in FAR, the rear yard setbacks are being relaxed from 15 feet down to 3 feet. This is intended to better facilitate rear yard infill, such as ADUs, while preserving the existing dwelling units on site. This can allow for the creation of new infill housing, as well as the legalization of rear yard units that may not have permits. Next slide. Much of our engagement with the community has highlighted the need to preserve unique aspects of the Boyle Heights cultural identity. Here, we have been able to propose unique zoning frontage districts for places like the historic Brooklyn Avenue corridor along Cesar Chavez, with objective zoning standards to ensure new buildings appropriately relate to the surrounding context. Next slide. Or unique frontages for the historic residential neighborhoods in Boyle Heights, ensuring that new buildings offer compatible features such as pitched roof or front portages. Next slide. The plan focuses on creating spaces for small businesses on corridors such as Cesar E. Chavez, Wabash, and Lorena that will allow for commercial establishments smaller than 5,000 square feet, while other corridors such as Soto, First, and Whittier will cap such uses at 50,000 square feet, allowing for uses such as grocery stores but preventing big box retail. Next slide. One of the most well-received proposals in the community plan is reintroducing new corner stores or tienditas in residential neighborhoods. New zoning stores allow for limited introduction of non-residential uses like tienditas in residential neighborhoods, providing new opportunities for small businesses and providing residents access to daily necessities. These tienditas are subject to the following limitations: a maximum of 1,500 square feet, can only sell food and beverages and not sell alcohol, limited hours of operation, and can only be located at a corner property. And lastly, consistent with similar regulations established in South LA, Hollywood, and downtown plans, the CPIO establishes procedures in Sub-Area B for the review of projects within eligible historic districts, helping to ensure that the diversity of historic places in Boyle Heights might be protected for the future. Next slide. The plan also includes various environmental justice strategies serving to address the years of negative public health impacts. For example, the plan uses new zoning tools to improve compatibility between existing industrial and residential areas and reduce future heavy industrial uses in proximity to home. The plan makes the regulations from the Clean Up, Green Up, or Google pilot program permanent. These regulations would be embedded in the new zoning code and requiring landscaping, buffering, and distancing requirements. The plan in the new code and updated land use designations promote landscaping, streetscape design elements that will help counter the urban heat island effects, also improve air quality, and enhance community aesthetics. The CPIO Sub-Area C requires that any project creating ground disturbance to conduct soil analysis for lead and arsenic, and if found, mitigate the project's impacts. The community plan proposes new zoning that will limit the future of auto-oriented gas stations or auto repair so that they only operate in proximity to freeway entrances and in the industrial areas. I will now hand the presentation over to Principal Planner Craig Weber, who will discuss some of the changes that are being requested to the plan.
Thank you, Ulises. Yes, thank you. This slide. Good afternoon, Craig Weber, City Planning staff. While the presentation today certainly indicates that a significant volume of work has been prepared as part of the community plan, there are, as is often the case, a number of changes that have been requested, both since our recommendation for approval with the City Planning Commission in April, and then more recently over the last couple of days as public comments have come in. To aid the committee's consideration of this item, I'd want to call attention to two exhibits that have been uploaded to the council file. First is the director's technical memo dated November 28, which outlines the majority of the requests that have been made of the plan following our April City Planning Commission date. And then second, the revised actions memo dated November 29, which lays out the various actions that the committee can take to apply the changes described within that technical memo. Now, within the technical memo, I want to very briefly summarize a number of requests were made by the City Planning Commission for further study. Those items are reflected here on the screen, and so where appropriate, the technical study makes recommendations for amendments to the plan. So, for example, there is a recommendation to incorporate Rent Schedule 6 within the community plan as the tool by which affordable housing rents would be calculated, and so on. I can answer any questions that the committee might have about the items that are included discreetly on this list. Can we go to the next slide, please? In addition to the items that were requested by the City Planning Commission, a number of additional items came up. In particular, as city staff have worked closely with Council District 14 on the finalization of this plan. Reflected here on the screen, those include incentives for the incorporation of an existing legacy small business within a project, expansion of this historic preservation sub-area as has been requested by some stakeholders here today, and then a number of technical modifications that are frankly necessary as the city completes the adoption of a brand new zoning code. I do want to call attention to what is titled here the land use mix alternative, which is essentially talking about the riverfronting industrial district within Boyle Heights. Could we go to the next slide, please? So here, the City Planning Commission's recommended community plan includes a land use designation of light industrial for this area that is generally between roughly 1st Street and 7th Street along the Los Angeles River and west of the 101 freeway. Present-day conditions are designated for heavy industrial, so this is an attempt to address some long-standing environmental justice concerns. However, there have been mixed comments as for the kind of desired future of this area throughout the plan's development. And our environmental impact report studied a number of alternatives, including the incorporation of housing. Now, following the City Planning Commission's recommended community plan back in April of this year, Council District 14 has expressed a desire to see an infusion of greater flexibility for future development in this area, and in particular with the incorporation of housing. But there's a great deal of nuance as to how this would be carried out, and that is also reflected within the director's technical memo. For the sake of the committee's deliberations here, I would want to highlight just a few aspects of how housing would be incorporated within this area. First, the land use designation in the zoning would primarily be for industrial mixed uses. And so what that means is that existing industrial uses within the area would be allowed to continue under zoning conditions. We would not be making existing uses legal non-conforming, but that housing uses within qualified circumstances would also be allowed, both in the form of adaptive reuse and through new construction. In particular, this particular area would benefit from an inclusionary housing mandate, which has been recently studied and found to be economically feasible. So under that requirement, any housing uses would be required to provide on-site affordable uses, regardless of whether or not they are receiving density bonuses, either under the local incentive system or any other density bonus program available. Second, given that the housing uses will involve an increase in the amount of floor area rights that are available within this area, any other employment use within this area can also seek floor area bonuses by providing other on-site community benefits. And this is largely consistent with what the committee somewhat recently approved within the downtown community plan. So employment uses that incorporate on-site community facilities, legacy small businesses, social services, schools, education facilities, libraries, et cetera. There's a long list of qualifying uses that employment uses would be able to avail of additional floor area rights in exchange for providing those kinds of community benefits. So I do want to acknowledge that this is a significant enhancement of what was initially recommended, which was just simply light industrial zoning. Having said all of that, I do want to also comment that we have noted and received the council office's most recent requests submitted in a council file letter submitted last night, and then in some modified instructions that were read into the record today. We are appreciative of the comments that have been brought before the committee, and having seen the request made by the council office, would recommend that this committee, using the actions described in the revised actions memo, and then as modified by the letter and instructions submitted by Council District 14 today. Happy to answer any questions that you might have on the community plan. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Weber. And now, I apologize, Councilmember De Leon, you're here to speak on this item.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, Ms. Hutt, as well as Ms. Padilla. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here before each and every one of you. I'm here with you today not just as the representative of this district, but as a steadfast advocate for the countless residents who have entrusted me with their hopes as well as dreams for improving their community. I'm here to amplify their voices, to champion their aspirations, and to ensure that the Boyle Heights Community Plan remains an unwavering sentinel, protecting our families and preserving the very essence of our cherished community. Boyle Heights holds significant importance in the city's history due to its rich cultural identity, its diversity, and role as a vibrant immigrant community. A community that has long been a welcoming haven for various ethnic and immigrant groups, including Mexican Americans, Jewish Ashkenazi immigrants, Japanese Americans, African Americans, Armenians, and more. Today, Boyle Heights grapples with the heightened threats of gentrification and displacement, making it an essential focal point for preserving the legacy and the well-being of the long-standing residents. The Boyle Heights Community Plan stands as a critical shield against this relentless tide of gentrification, threatening to upend the lives of many of its residents. As a council member representing Boyle Heights, I'm acutely aware that the decisions that we make around the community plan will have ramifications for years to come. That's why I've taken a proactive role for the past 3 years since I've been on this council, and I'm proud that before you today, you have the most pro-family, pro-immigrant, pro-renter, pro-small business, and most importantly, anti-gentrification plan in the city. First, I want to thank the planning department, especially Craig Weber and Ulysses Gonzalez, who were just up here just a few moments ago. I also want to thank Andrew Pasillas and the many other planners who have worked on this since the update was initiated a few years ago, for their constant efforts to fine-tune this plan so that it meets its goals that it has laid out. In broad terms, this plan includes fundamental elements like protecting neighborhood identity through historic preservation, especially on the Cesar Chavez Brooklyn Avenue corridor, and zoning communities allowing for an appropriate level of density. A new base bonus system that would require a base of 25% for affordable units, establishing incentives to preserve legacy small businesses, and legalizing corner lot stores in residential zones known as tienditas, adding soil sampling requirements due to environmental justice concerns, namely the Exide calamity that has affected this community for many, many years. And we have ensured that the LA Housing Department's rent schedule number 6 becomes the measure used for defining affordability, because it accurately reflects household income and allowable rents in Boyle Heights as compared to the county-wide area median income, which is substantially higher. To put this in perspective, if we were to use the old formula provided by the federal government, the antiquated rules and regulations that they have at HUD in Washington, D.C., rents for a 2-bedroom unit considered low income would be approximately $2,145. But under rent schedule 6, for that same 2-bedroom in Boyle Heights, it would be $1,185. What we need is to dig in deeper. We need more context, because we need to figure out what is actually the real median income in these neighborhoods as opposed to applying a county-wide application. However, this plan has room for additional protections. To that end, I have provided recommendations which are in the letter before you, Mr. Chair, as well as members, and I believe reflect what the community has called for and would become the most progressive anti-gentrification plan in the city of Los Angeles. I won't go into great detail of all the recommendations, but I would like to highlight the essential goals. First, Boyle Heights has always been a community of families, sometimes big families, and therefore they need larger living quarters. Many of them who have 3 generations living under one roof: los abuelos, los padres e hijos, the grandparents, the children of the grandparents, and the children of the parents who are the grandchildren of the grandparents. 3 generations bajo un solo techo. We need more affordable units that are not just 1-bedroom and studios, or bachelor apartments, if you will. We need family units, which is why I'm requesting that 60% of units within affordable housing projects be required to be 2 bedrooms at minimum, so that families can stay in Boyle Heights. We're not building for dormitories for students. We're not building SROs, or what I call bachelor flats, which there was one where I grew up in Logan Heights, where single men who were older lived. We are building for families. That is a real reflection of the community in Boyle Heights, and not just unique to Boyle Heights, but throughout different parts of the city of Los Angeles. We want Boyle Heights residents to be able to stay in Boyle Heights. Second, we need to make sure that the people who lose their housing in Boyle Heights are given the first right of refusal for new affordable housing created in Boyle Heights. That's why I'm pushing for a local preference plan that will incorporate a range of factors to make local residents a priority when it comes to affordable housing in their community. This includes victims of the Ellis Act, evictions, households impacted by federal freeway construction. Boyle Heights is surrounded by 5 major freeways, the 5, the 10, the 60, the 710, and part of the 101. And others impacted by the government's neighborhood redlining policies. These preferences will comply, and let me underscore and emphasize, will comply with the Federal Fair Housing Act and will ensure that the new housing built in Boyle Heights can also be for the people of Boyle Heights. Third, we need to ensure that we are addressing the elephant in the room, and that is the commercial gentrification that is happening just east of the LA River. Currently, movie studios and galleries are moving into warehouses under the existing zoning. While the movie industry is critical, no doubt, is a pillar in our city's economy, the jobs that are produced in Boyle Heights, quite frankly, are rarely benefit, I should say, the residents of Boyle Heights. The plan in its current form doesn't address this and keeps us on a path to exacerbate gentrification. That's why I'm calling for inclusionary housing and strict guardrails for this area to ensure that we are encouraging housing to be built for the residents of Boyle Heights and not displace existing affordable housing, a key tenet of this plan. But the affordability requirement are not enough. That's why I'm proposing that we change the maximum 22% low income, as was demonstrated up here on the graph, of low income affordable housing units on all projects to be 50% low income units to make sure the highest inclusionary percentages in the city. Fourth, and I'm almost done, Mr. Chair, we need to address the anti-tenant harassment. I'm recommending that the provisions of Senate Bill 8 and Senate Bill 330, which codify anti-harassment policies and the replacement of affordable units, be incorporated into the plan. Much like what was done in South Los Angeles, which also suffers from gentrification and displacement. Boyle Heights needs these same protections for our vulnerable renters. Finally, Mr. Chair, we need to address also the accelerant that spreads gentrification, the displacement of long-time local businesses. I hear story after story of businesses that have come close to or have relocated due to major rent increases. After they leave, landlords hold the space vacant for a considerable amount of time until someone comes in and will pay a much higher rate. Vacancies depress consumer traffic, which hurts other businesses. And when a new business pops up that can meet the much higher rents, they begin to alter the fabric of the neighborhood. I can tell you this, in Highland Park on York Boulevard, before the wave of gentrification happened, it was the York Boulevard small businesses. One by one, once they started disappearing and other businesses came in, the whole wave came in, the tidal wave for gentrification. Listen, I'm okay with acai bowls and, goji berries, and I'm okay with, slow pour coffee, but I'm not okay with it at the cost of destroying the social fabric of communities. It is real, it is genuine. This is what's happening throughout the day and throughout the city, and it's a very small, if you will, I should say, slow boil. If you don't believe me, all you have to do is go to Echo Park. If you don't believe me, all you have to do is go to Highland Park, and you will see the devastation of the social fabric that has been upended altogether, and it's happening in communities of color, in particularly black and brown neighborhoods. After they leave, I should say, I just mentioned, to curb this trend, I'm recommending that the city departments work together to identify policies to protect long-time local businesses, such as a vacancy tax, limiting rent increases on commercial businesses, or tax incentives to landlords who keep local businesses in their properties, and any other strategies that can help preserve our local neighborhood gems. I expect that this report will provide recommendations that can be incorporated into the plan prior to the drafting of the ordinance by the city attorney. It's been 25 years since this plan was updated, which is why we need to get it right. We have one opportunity. We have one opportunity that will impact the lives of the people in Boyle Heights in the immediate and long-term future. what we all do collectively, not just in this committee, but the 15-member city council legislative body, will have lasting repercussions. Colleagues, Mr. Chair, as well as Ms. Hutt and Ms. Padilla, and to our members, Mr. Harris Dawson, as well as Ms. Yaroslavsky, I thank you for taking time for this very important item today that will guide the future of Boyle Heights for decades to come. I ask that you include my recommendations in your committee report so that we can truly create the best Boyle Heights community plans that is possible. With that, Mr. Chair, I thank you very much for this opportunity.
Well, thank you, Councilmember. It sounds like you have been very personally involved in this community plan. You're right, it is important. It's important to get it right. So I'm sure your community appreciates all your involvement with this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So are there any questions from committee members? Nope, all right. Thank you, Councilmember.
Mr. Chair, Ms. Padilla, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Mr. Clerk, can you read recommendations into the record?
The recommendation will be to approve the planning department recommendations as detailed in its report dated November 29th, 2023, which has been uploaded to the council file. Two, to adopt Mr. De Leon's additional amendments requests that are memorialized in a letter, which he has also uploaded to council file 230861. And thirdly, we need to correct, and this was stated by Mr. Weber at the beginning of the meeting, the definition of legacy building. And those are the three recommendations, sir.
And we had other recommendations said into the record earlier, correct?
Yes.
This item?
Yes.
All right, then can you please call the roll on this item?
Yes, Mr. Harris Dawson has stepped out, absent. Mr. Lee?
Aye.
Ms. Yaroslavsky? Absent. Ms. Padilla? Yes. Yes. And Ms. Hutt?
Aye.
That's 3 ayes, and those actions carry, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you very much. We're actually going to apologize that we're moving around a little bit. We're going to move on to item number 15.
Yes. Item 15. Let's see. Here's item 15. Okay, item 15, sir. This is has a categorical exemption from CEQA, initial study at a negative deck. This is a city attorney report and draft ordinance to provide regulations regarding outdoor dining on private property. It's inclusive of a planning department report with revised recommendations to those that were submitted previously.
All right, thank you very much. I believe Ms. Kim is here from the planning department, is here to give us a report.
All right, good afternoon, Plum Committee members. I'm Bonnie Kim, City Planner with the Department of City Planning. And the item before you today is an ordinance to establish permanent regulations for a citywide alfresco ordinance on private property. So based on Plum's instructions, public feedback, consultation with noise experts, and collaboration with LADBS, LAPD, the Department of Disability, and the city attorney, 2 versions of the alfresco ordinance have been prepared as to form and legality for the council's consideration. The first version, which was transmitted by the city attorney on November 2nd, would allow for background music by right in outdoor dining areas in compliance with additional music standards, including the installation of noise monitoring devices. A series of escalating fines is also established for noise violations. The second version, referred to as the alternative ordinance and attached as Exhibit A to City Planning Supplemental Report dated November 2nd, would instead allow background music via a conditional use permit. Both ordinances otherwise maintain the same outdoor dining area definition, standards, and enforcement schema, including the ability to revoke building permits for repeated violations. And in response to the Plum Committee's most recent instructions at their November 7th meeting, Planning has prepared another report with additional recommendations dated November 27th. And the recommended amendments to the ordinance include clarifying the appropriate city contact for alfresco complaints and requiring that businesses with parking that are replacing those spaces with outdoor dining maintain at least 1 parking space. So I'd also like to add that the operations of those participating under the LA Alfresco temporary authorization program were done without permanent regulations in place, given the emergency public health situation, and that will all change with the adoption of the permanent regulations under consideration today. While we have heard from the public about existing nuisance complaints during the temporary program, the approval of permanent regulations would allow for the full effect of enforcement that is outlined in the alternative ordinance, up to and including revoking the ability to do outdoor dining. It should also be noted that with the hotline for complaints that is required by the recommended ordinance today, LADBS has confirmed that repeat offenders of the city's noise ordinance, which is enforced by LAPD, will be communicated to the Commission Investigation Division for investigation and/or citation. Furthermore, in our meetings with the Commission Investigation Division, Lieutenant Moffett confirmed that when LAPD officers arrive on site to investigate a noise complaint in general, it is often the case that no citation is needed since operators immediately comply with the officer's request to quiet down. Of course, the ordinance does provide the authorization for citations and other enforcement actions as needed. So in summary, the Planning Department has had multiple meetings between the city's enforcement agencies to create a schema that would respond to the public's feedback on the temporary program, as it has operated as a case study from which we have learned and adjusted the regulations in the permanent ordinance to be responsive. So the Department of City Planning therefore recommends that the City Council adopt the alternative ordinance attached as Exhibit A to the November 2nd report, with the additional amendments relating to a complaint hotline and parking as described in the November 27th report, inclusive of staff's technical correction, and as further amended by the Plum Committee during this meeting. So that concludes our presentation. City planning staff, as well as our colleagues from LADBS, Department of Disability, and LAPD are available for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Kim. I appreciate that report. It seems like you answered the questions that I had. Council members, any questions from any of the other Plum members? No? All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Mr. Clerk, if you can call this item into the record.
Yes, sir. So I'll read the recommendation to request the city attorney to prepare and present an ordinance that includes all of the policies included in Exhibit A of the Planning Department report dated November the 2nd, 2023, and as modified in the recommended actions, action items 1 and 2 in the Planning Department report dated November 27, 2023, inclusive of the technical amendment, and modify subsection 1221A 24D1I to read, the outdoor dining area shall have an enclosure of no more than 75%, except that, and the clause continues. And that's the extent of the recommendation. I will call the roll. Mr. Harris-Dawson, absent. Mr. Lee?
Aye.
Mr. Yaroslavsky, absent. Ms. Padilla?
Aye.
Ms. Hutt?
Aye.
That's 3 members, and that action carries, sir.
Thank you very much. I think we're running into some quorum issues, as you can see, so we're going to try to take additional items out of order. If we can have here item number 18.
Yes, so I believe, yes, item 18 is related to item 19, so we can hear them together, but when we take action, we'll take the action separately.
I appreciate that.
So item 18, this is a Sustainable Communities Environmental Assessment, and a report from the Planning Commission recommending approval of a conditional use permit and a site plan review, and it's inclusive of 2 appeals filed by 1, Supporters Alliance for Environmental Responsibility, SAFER, and 2, by Mr. Nam Kim, and this is appealing the construction of a mixed-use building in CD 10 that will have 251 residential units, inclusive of 29 affordable units. And item 19 is the land use entitlements, also the Sustainable Communities Environmental Assessment, and the recommended resolution for a general plan amendment and a vesting zone and high district change for the same project, sir.
Thank you. I believe we have a report from the Planning Department.
Hi, hello, yes. Good afternoon, council members. This is Chi Dang with City Planning. The project before you is the development of an 8-story mixed-use project with 251 residential units, 61,500 square feet of commercial office floor area, with 13 units set aside for extremely low-income households and 16 units set aside for very low-income households at the northwest intersection of 8th Street and Harvard Boulevard in Council District 10. On May 25th, 2023, the City Planning Commission approved a site plan review and a main conditional use permit for a full line of alcoholic beverages for 3 restaurants, and recommended that the City Council approve a general plan amendment to the Wilshire Community Plan to redesignate the site from neighborhood office commercial to regional center commercial, and a vesting zone change and a height district change from C2-1 to, and PB-1 to TQC2-2. There were 2 appeals filed, one from Safer and one from Nam Kim from the Voice of Wilshire Koreatown Community. Responses to all appeal points have been uploaded to the council file. Staff recommends that the Plum Committee deny the appeals and sustain the original determination held by City Planning Commission. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe we have 2 appellants on this case. If we can ask the first appellant, the representative from Safer, to present their appeal.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Marjana Bubo of Lozo Jury, and I'll be speaking on this item. I'm here on behalf of the appellant, Supporters Alliance for Environmental Responsibility. Safer requests that the Plum Committee grant its appeal and require the city to prepare a revised SKIA or EIR for the proposed project because the current SKIA fails to adequately analyze and mitigate the project's potentially significant air quality, health risks, greenhouse gas, and noise impacts. So first, the SKIA fails to include several feasible mitigation measures in the 2020-2045 program EIR as required by CEQA. Notably, the SKIA fails to require or provide an adequate justification for not requiring the following relevant and feasible mitigation measures that would help reduce the project's potentially significant air quality, GHG, and noise impacts. Second, the SKIA's conclusions regarding the project's air quality, health risks, GHG, and noise impacts are not supported by substantial evidence, and for several reasons. One, SKIA also failed to discuss or mitigate the project's significant indoor air quality impacts. Two, the SKIA inadequately analyzed the project's impact on human health from emissions from diesel particulate matter on nearby sensitive receptors. Three, SKIA inadequately analyzed the project's GHG impacts. Four, Safer's experts also found that the SKIA's air model underestimated the project's emissions and concluded that it cannot be relied upon to determine the level of significance of air quality impacts. And lastly, the SKIA inadequately analyzed the project's construction and operational noise impacts. I won't go into much detail for the sake of time, but for these reasons, Safer urges Plum to grant its appeal and require the city to prepare and recirculate a revised SKIA or EIR that adequately analyzes and mitigates these significant impacts before considering any project approvals. This concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I believe the second appellant, Mr. Nam Kim, to present their appeal. I don't see them here. Do we have the applicant, Steve Kim, available to speak?
Good afternoon, council members. I'm not sure what happened to Steve, but I'm here, Fernando Tovar, on behalf of Mr. Charles Park, if you'd like me to respond to anything.
Okay, you have 3 minutes if you'd like to make any type of statement.
Just very briefly, council members. So the appeal before you that was just presented by Safer is the same issues that, the issues raised on appeal are the exact same issues that were raised when the SKIA for this project was taken up by the Plum Committee and by the City Council back in April of this year. The City Council and the Plum Committee both approved and adopted the SKIA, and at that time, Our environmental consultant prepared a letter which was dated April 13, 2023, in response to a letter that was submitted by Safer's attorney, which was dated March 21, 2023, which raised all of the issues that you just heard today. Our environmental consultant provided an 8-page response, point by point, and the bottom line, council members, is that the SKIA is fully compliant with CEQA. There is no substantial evidence to show that the CEQA's analysis is inadequate and that it is not CEQA compliant. I'm not going to get into the weeds, but the air quality analysis adheres to the modeling requirements under CEQA, and there are absolutely no emission impacts, air quality impacts of any kind. The appellants argue that they want to include a number of mitigation measures, which, yes, exist. There's a menu of mitigation measures available out there, but those mitigation measures are only required if the project results in a significant impact. So they want us to include more mitigation measures that aren't even necessary. And again, all of that is addressed by our environmental consultant, and this letter is part of the administrative record. So I'm fully satisfied that the project, and fully confident that the project is compliant with CEQA. The other appellant is not here today, but she raised some very general statements about the project setbacks and other minor issues that she didn't really provide a whole lot of evidence to substantiate her position. But all of the project setbacks along the street frontages are compliant with the code. We're only asking for a reduced setback along the northerly property line where it abuts properties to the north. And we're asking for 16 feet in lieu of 20 feet, which is a by right incentive because it is a TLC project as well. With that, that'll conclude my statements. Thank you very much, and we would urge you to deny the appeal and to approve the entitlements under item number 19 as well. Thank you.
Can you please state your name for the record one more time?
Yes, well, once again, Fernando Tovar.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Tovar.
you.
All right, seeing this is in Council District 10, Councilmember Hutt, would you like to say anything on these two items?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it. I'd like to say, although I agree that the environmental determination is strong, I do have some concerns about the overall project scope. I'm aware that there's a blanket request for alcohol on this site. Such an entitlement leaves the door open to a concentration of alcohol on site. To that point, there's not enough information to assume that an overlay of alcohol over the site would be responsible, given that Koreatown has one of the highest alcohol concentrations in the state of California. I believe the prudent thing to do would be to approve each application for alcohol individually on a case-by-case basis. Therefore, I ask that Plum members approve Nam Kim's appeal in part, denying the conditional use for beverage in conjunction with the project, and to deny all the appeal points in the subject appeals. Additionally, I ask for your vote to deny the appeal lodged by Safer. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Hutt. I don't think there's any issues with her amendments. Ms. Padilla, are there any questions? Any issues? No? Seeing that there are no issues with that amendment.
Okay, so as to item 18, Councilman, Ms. Hutt has indicated to deny the appeal by Safer. And as to the second appeal by Mr. Nam, my understanding is the councilwoman is recommending a grant in part, deny in part. And is it my understanding it's to deny the conditional use, Councilwoman?
Yes.
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 And the councilwoman is proposing to deny the conditional use permit. So as such, city planning will need to prepare the necessary findings to deny that conditional use, since the underlying recommendation was to approve it.
Okay, so do we need to hold this?
Yeah, we need to take a vote on it, if that is what the committee concurs. I will call the roll. Mr. Harris Dawson is absent. Mr. Lee?
Aye.
Ms. Yaroslavsky, absent. Ms. Padilla? Aye. Ms. Hutt?
Yes.
Very good. As to item number 19, which is the accompanying case file, which is inclusive of the resolution for the general plan amendment, the vesting zone change, and high district change. The recommendation therein is to approve those entitlements, and also to formally approve the October 10th Planning Department report recommendation to correct its September 22nd, 23 letter of determination to denote that this is a vesting zone change ordinance. I will call the roll. Mr. Harris-Dawson, absent. Mr. Lee?
Aye.
Ms. Yaroslavsky, absent. Ms. Padilla?
Aye.
Ms. Hutt?
Aye.
And that action carries, sir.
All right. I would like next to take items 16 and 17 together. Ms. City Clerk, can
Items 17 and 8, sorry, you said what items again, Councilman? 16 and 17? No.
correct.
16 and 17, sir. So item 16, it's inclusive of the categorical exemption from CEQA. It's a report from city planning and appeals filed by Supporters Alliance for Environmental Responsibility, SAFER, and 2, the Studio City Residents Association, Mr. Barry Johnson. They're appealing the commission's approval of the site plan review and project permit compliance for the construction of a new multifamily residential building, 129 units, 17 of those units set aside for very low-income households. And the related file, which is item number 17, is again the same appellant, no, in item 17, sorry, to correct that, item 17, there's only one appeal filed by SAFER, the Supporters for the Alliance for Environmental Responsibility, which they are challenging the environmental clearance, the categorical exemption from CEQA.
Thank you very much. I believe we have Mr. Woon from the Planning Department to give us a report.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is David Nguyen with City Planning. I'll be covering items 16 and 17 on today's agenda. Item 16 is with regards to the appealable entitlements that were approved by the City Planning Commission at their meeting on July 27th, 2023. Item 17 pertains to a CEQA appeal of the same project. As a quick background, the project involves the construction of a new multifamily residential building with 129 dwelling units, including 17 set aside for very low-income households. Starting with item 16, the Studio City Residents Association argues that there is no legal requirement for granting the increases in height and lot coverage and deviation from the transitional height requirement that were approved by the CPC through density bonus on and off menu incentives, and as stated in condition number 10 in the conditions of approval. The appellant also argues that these incentives contribute to extreme massing. Contrary to the appellant's allegation, the CPC's decision to approve the deviations in height, transitional height, and lot coverage are not subjective and are consistent with city and state density bonus requirements. The project provides the required number of affordable housing units for the requested incentives, and as detailed in the findings, the incentives would offset the cost for providing affordable housing units. Therefore, planning recommends that the Studio City Residents Association appeal be denied. The Supporters Alliance for Environmental Responsibility, or SAFER, also filed an appeal of the approved entitlements. However, their appeal points are related to the CPC's determination that the project is exempt from CEQA pursuant to a Class 32 categorical exemption. Their appeal points do not directly address the appealable entitlements and therefore will be addressed under item 17. Moving on to item 17, which involves the CEQA appeal of the same project. SAFER is the only appellant for this item, and they are alleging that the project will result in significant air, noise, and biological impacts, and that the project is not consistent with the city's Green New Deal. After reviewing SAFER's appeal points, planning staff recommends that the CEQA appeal be denied. The appellant has not provided any substantial evidence that shows that the project will have significant air quality impacts and health impacts due to formaldehyde and toxic air contaminant emissions. The air quality analysis prepared for the categorical exemption concluded that the project will not exceed any regional or localized thresholds of significance, nor does the project propose any land use that is associated with substantial toxic contaminant emissions. Similarly, the appellant does not provide any substantial data that supports their claim that the project will have a significant noise impact on nearby sensitive receptors. The noise impact assessment prepared for the categorical exemption concluded that the project will not result in any significant construction noise impacts. In planning staff's justification report for project exemption from CEQA, planning also concluded that the project site has no value as habitat for endangered, rare, or threatened species. Planning staff would also like to refer to the biologist's statement of biological resources letter that was transmitted into the council file. And then lastly, the appellant falsely claims that the project is inconsistent with the city's new Green Deal. The project is required to show compliance with all mandatory standards established by the Green New Deal Sustainable City Plan. So in summary, the appellant does not provide any substantial evidence of any significant environmental impacts. Planning has evaluated the proposed project and determined that the Class 32 CEQA exemption appropriately analyzes the project's environmental impacts. Therefore, planning recommends that the Plum Committee deny the entitlement appeals and CEQA appeal and sustain the City Planning Commission's decision. Additional details related to the appeal points were addressed in a staff letter that was submitted to the record. That concludes my presentation for these two items. I'm happy to address any questions you might have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Woon. I believe we have an appellant here to speak on it. Is Marjana Bubo? You have 4 minutes because there's 2 items.
Okay, good afternoon, council members. Again, my name is Marjana Bubo, and I'm here on behalf of SAFER and its members who live, work, and recreate in and around the city of LA. As to the project located at 4260 Arc Drive and independent of the air quality and noise issues that we raised, SAFER respectfully appeals the Commission's decision and requests the committee to deny the Class 32 exemption to instead prepare an EIR pursuant to CEQA. SAFER has been following this project closely and submitted comments leading up to this hearing. We incorporate those into the record. And with the limited time I have today, I'd like to highlight another key issue that we had provided in our earlier letters, but I don't believe were addressed. As a preliminary matter, the city failed to adequately analyze the project's impacts on biological resources. CEQA provides that an exemption is improper where the site has habitat value for endangered, rare, and/or threatened species. Our expert biologist identified a few bird species who relied on the project site. They were observed nesting and foraging. Such expert observations are not surprising given how the project site directly abuts the Los Angeles River. Unfortunately, and to SAFER's understanding, the city's analysis of biological resource impacts was limited to a survey of trees. As such, there is substantial evidence on the record to conclude that the site does possess habitat value and a Class 32 exemption may not be applied. I guess that's all I'm going to say. We did include comments regarding air quality and noise, and those were included in our written comments. But I just wanted to address the habitat value issue, and hopefully we could get some resolve in that. Thank you. Happy holidays.
Thank you, Mr. Bubo. I believe there's a second appellant on this case on item number 16, Barry Johnson. Mr. Johnson, you have 3 minutes to present your case.
Barry Johnson. I'm an unpaid volunteer here for the Studio City Residents Association. This project relies upon improper off-menu incentives and waivers. This is because the city's municipal code only allows off-menu incentives and waivers for those development standards not included in the menu of incentives contained in the Los Angeles Municipal Code 1222A25F. Under that LAMC, which allows for off-menu incentives and waivers for qualified projects, for which the applicant requests a waiver or modification of any development standards, that is not included on the menu of incentives. Here, the majority of requested off-menu incentives and waivers of standards are development standards that are included on the menu incentives. Instead of seeking incentives and waivers not otherwise addressed by LAMC, the applicant seeks incentives and waivers that greatly exceed the limits set for the development standard incentives. LAMC 1222A25F4 provides for an on-menu incentive to increase FAR, but that incentive is not to exceed 35%, which would allow a 1:35 to 1 FAR on the project site. In an attempt to improperly skirt the established limits for FAR incentives, the project instead seeks what it calls an off-menu incentive to further increase the FAR. This LAMC municipal code provides for an on-menu incentive to increase height, but limits that height increase to a maximum of 11 additional feet or 1 additional story, whichever is lower. The project improperly includes an off-menu incentive for this on-menu development standard to increase the height to 75 feet. This project's inclusion of significantly greater incentives and waivers that already addressed by the menu incentives completely disregards the requirement that any off-menu incentive or waiver actually be for development standard that is not already included in the menu of incentives. 45 feet is allowed here, plus 11 additional feet for the density bonus, for a total of 56 feet. For all of these reasons, we urge the Plum Committee to grant SCRA's appeal of the City Planning Commission's approval of this project. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I believe we have the applicant, Jonathan Riker, on both items here to speak. Mr. Riker, you have, since there's 2 items, you have 4 minutes.
Thank you, council members. My name is Jonathan Riker, and I'm a land use attorney with Venable LLP representing the applicant. I'd like to keep my comments brief, mainly to answer any questions you may have. Also, I'd like to reiterate the report from planning staff, which really handles the main concerns that the appellants seem to have had, and we were able to also supplement some of the information that the city utilized. We had our expert consultants, our air quality, especially in biological resources consultant, prepare responses to the appeal, in particular with regard to SAFER. Unfortunately, they did submit a report on Friday. Our biological resources consultant has prepared general responses, but we reserve the right to provide more detailed responses. But nonetheless, overall, the appeal lacks merit. There's substantial evidence in the record as submitted previously during the City Planning Commission hearing and through this process, both information provided by the city, the expert consultants I mentioned. We also hired a CEQA consultant to prepare supplemental findings, all of which indicate that the city's decision to utilize the Class 32 exemption was proper, and there's no substantial evidence in the record provided by the appellants to refute that. Also, with regard to Mr. Johnson, unfortunately, he seems to misconstrue the city's density bonus requirements and the state density bonus law. The project fully complies with state law as well as the city's implementation ordinance. We have a property that is a project that is 5 stories maximum height. It's not 7 stories or however many stories he may have mentioned. And the city found no substantial evidence to show that the requests for the density bonus incentives and waivers were not warranted. So with regard to those issues, we again would like to refer back to the city's responses, and we agree completely with them. Also, just in general, the benefits of the project really need to be understood. As you may know, we originally submitted a density bonus project for 23 fewer units back in 2020. Unfortunately, due to economic concerns and the difficulties brought by COVID, it was very challenging to move forward with that project. So we submitted an application in 2021 for the current version of the project, which we believe is much superior to the previous project. We added 23 additional units, including 5 more affordable units, going from 12 to 17 affordable units within a very similar building envelope. We changed the location of the access pathway to the LA River, which from the west of the site to the east, made it wider. It's a 15-foot side yard setback area that would not only provide better access to the river, but also makes it more feasible to preserve trees at that location next to the properties adjacent to it and the residential uses next to it. And we also work diligently with the City Council office and LADOT to voluntarily fund new traffic calming signage along Ventura Boulevard to help reduce traffic speed and risks of accidents, which unfortunately have become quite frequent in recent years. So based on this project, the value it brings to the city, as well as the fact that the city's Class 32 exemption is adequately, there's enough data to support that and evidence, we respectfully ask you to deny the appeals. And we're here for any questions if you may have them. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe we have a representative from Council District 4 here. Speak on this item.
Hi, good afternoon, council members. My name is Michelle Majid, Deputy Chief of Staff for Councilmember Rahman. What you have before you is a proposed project with more overall units and more covenanted affordable units than previously considered, abutting Ventura Boulevard, a major commercial corridor near transit. It appears to be fitting for the block as it's located alongside other buildings of similar heights. As an additional benefit, we appreciate that the applicant has agreed to fund the installation of new traffic calming signage along Arch Drive to help alleviate community concerns related to traffic impacts and pedestrian safety at the Ventura Arch intersection. The applicant is also requesting a waiver of dedication and improvement to address the neighborhood council's concerns about creating a jagged curb and to have a more comfortable pedestrian-friendly walkway, which our office supports. Thank you for taking our comments into consideration. We respectfully ask that you deny the appeals.
Thank you very much. Council members, any questions on either of these items? No. All right, thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, if you can.
Yes, so Mr. Lee and committee members, for item number 16, the recommendation as stated by CD4 and City Planning is to deny the appeals filed by 1, Supporters Alliance for Environmental Responsibility, SAFER, and 2, the Studio City Residents Association, Mr. Barry Johnson, and thereby sustain the determination of the Planning Commission to approve the site plan review and a project permit compliance review for the construction of a new multifamily residential building with 129 dwelling units, 17 units set aside for very low-income households for the property located at 4260 North Arch Drive and 11201 West Ventura Boulevard. And for item number 17, as to the sequel appeal, the recommendation is to deny the appeal filed by Supporters Alliance for Environmental Responsibility and thereby sustain the determination of the Planning Commission as to its recommendation to approve the environmental clearance, a categorical exemption for CEQA for the same project as I have read for item number 16. I will call the roll individually for each of those items. For item 16, Mr. Harris-Dawson, absent. Mr. Lee.
Aye.
Ms. Yaroslavsky, absent. Ms. Padilla.
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Hutt. Aye. Thank you. That's 3 ayes, and that action carries. As to item 17, as I have stated on the denial on the CEQA appeal, I will call the roll. Mr. Harris-Dawson, absent. Mr. Lee.
Aye.
Ms. Yaroslavsky, absent. Ms. Padilla.
Aye.
Ms. Hutt.
Aye.
That's 3 ayes, and that action carries, sir.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. Next, I'd like to take 3 items actually together, if they're still, hopefully they're still all here. We have 3 commission appointments, items number 12, 13, and 14. If you are still here, if you could come and join us at the table.
Yes, so for item 12, Mr. Chair and committee members, it's the appointment of Ms. Lydia Avila Hernandez to the East LA Area Planning Commission. Item 13 is the mayor's communication relative to the appointment of Mr. David Nash to the Cannabis Regulation Commission. And item 14 is a communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Mr. David Marquez to the East Los Angeles Area Planning Commission.
Thank you. I apologize for how long this is. Plum takes some time sometimes.
Don't apologize, and tacos.
So just wanted to, if you guys could just briefly tell us, I know it's different commissions, but if you can briefly tell us a little bit about your background and why you want to serve your city in this way. We'll start off with Ms. Avila Hernandez.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lydia Avila Hernandez. I'm a Boyle Heights resident. My family's lived in the East Side community for over 50 years, and I'm just very excited to represent my community and the various stakeholders in this important endeavor.
Thank you. And Mr. Nash?
Hello. I was born and raised in Lancaster, so I've been a Angelino all my life. And I graduated law school from USC, undergraduate Boston University, and I'm just looking forward to giving back to this great city of Los Angeles.
Are there any specific goals you have for the Cannabis Regulations Commission?
Just to uphold the laws and regulations and support the policy of equity.
Thank you, Mr. Nash. And then there's Mr. Marquez.
Hi, my name is David Marquez, lifetime Angelino. I enjoyed the presentation, the Boyle Heights Community Plan Update. That's where I was born, raised, Northeast Los Angeles resident. Looking forward to a return to the East Area Planning Commission and listening to my community.
Perfect. I mean, Mr. Marquez and Ms. Avila Hernandez, as you can see, you were here timely for the Boyle Heights Community Plan. So you have a lot of work ahead of you, and just thank you for your willingness to serve the city of Los Angeles. We appreciate that. Council members, any questions for the two area planning commissioners?
I just want to say thank you.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say thank you. It's always great when people give their time, their energy, and their best thoughts to making Los Angeles better. So I want to thank you all for stepping up.
Sudhia, any questions for our area planning commissioners?
Yes, thank you. I have a question for Mr. Nash. I'm curious.
Sure.
What is your vision of a department that is perceived as not necessarily facilitating the industry to fulfill its full potential?
To be honest, I don't understand the question.
Okay. What is your vision to fix this department that is perceived as broken and not properly facilitating its industry to fulfill its full potential?
As I sit here today, I don't have any means of answering that question at this time. I just haven't dug in enough to understand the issues that you're mentioning.
So then why do you think you were invited to be on this commission?
I think because of my background and because of the fact that I will work hard and I will learn what I need to know, and I will uphold the rules and the regulations as I see them.
Can you tell me a little bit more about your background for the record?
Yeah, I've been a practicing attorney and a real estate broker in Southern California for the better part of 35 years.
So you have a background in real estate?
Yes, I do.
So then, do you have an opinion about what has been imposed on social equity applicants and other applicants as it pertains to having to pay for rent in a building without being able to first get their permit?
It sounds like you're speaking about specific permitting issues that are currently ongoing in the commission or department, and I'm just simply not up to date enough on them to comment on that.
No further questions?
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, if you can read each individual item into record.
So they're not all together.
I'm sorry.
How do I separate them so that they're different votes per person? Can we?
Yes, so starting off with Miss Lydia Avila Hernandez, please, item number 12.
Yes, I'll call the roll. Mr. Harris Dawson, absent. Mr. Lee.
Aye.
Ms. Yaroslavsky, absent. Ms. Padilla.
Aye.
Ms. Hutt. That's 3 ayes, and that appointment is approved. Item 13 is the appointment of Mr. David Nash to the Cannabis Regulation Commission. Mr. Harris Dawson, absent. Mr. Lee.
Aye.
Ms. Yaroslavsky, absent. Ms. Padilla.
Nay.
Is that a no?
That's a nay.
No. And Ms. Hutt?
Yes.
Okay, and so that's 2 ayes and 1 no. That action carries because it's majority 2 to 1.
Yeah.
So that is recommended as approval to the council. Item 14, relative to the appointment of Mr. David Marquez to the East Los Angeles Area Planning Commission. Mr. Harris Dawson, absent. Mr. Lee.
Aye.
Ms. Yaroslavsky, absent. Ms. Padilla.
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Hutt.
Yes.
That's 3 ayes, and that action carries as approval.
All right, thank you so much, and thanks for spending your time with us here at Plum Committee. We'll see you in council. That leaves us with only 1 item left. That's item number 1. I apologize if you're here to speak on that. That is, I just got word that we are going to continue that to January 16th. And can
Yes,
you-
item 1 is a verbal update. I believe it's either, on the agenda, let me check. I think it listed the report, verbal update from city planning relative to a response to a motion, Harris Dawson Raman, requesting the city attorney to incorporate additional recommendations to those adopted by the council on January 20th, 2023, to amend the South Los Angeles Community Plan Implementation Overlay Ordinance and address the issue of displacement and the preservation of affordable housing.
All right, if we can continue that to January 16th, seeing as the chair is not here, I wanted to speak on the item.
Okay.
Are there any other?
Call the roll as to that continuance. Mr. Harris Dawson, absent. Mr. Lee?
Aye.
Mr. Yaroslavsky, absent. Ms. Padilla?
Aye.
Thank you. And Ms. Hutt? Aye. And that's 3 ayes, and that item is continued to January 16, 2024.
Thank you. Is there anything else on the desk?
That completes the agenda, sir.
All right, this meeting is now adjourned.
Thank you.